Hi, everyone. Welcome to this Crossword construction stream on this Sunday, January 26th, 2020. I hope everyone can hear me and see me okay. If you can, please say hi in the chat because I can see what you're typing in here. Um, Maybe we'll wait just a minute to see if anybody else wants to log on and say hi. I see there's only a couple of people in the stream right now, so I will wait a minute. I just made a comment on the Facebook post, and I just made a tweet, so I hope people can see that. Hey, Nikhil, my friend Nikhil's here in the chat. Okay, I think we'll just get started. And to anybody who's watching this in the future, I hope that everything works out okay today. It's my second stream, so I hope all the technical difficulties are sorted out. It's going to be a little hard to do this stream without addressing some recent news that I just found out about. Today was we heard the very tragic news that Kobe Bryant passed away. So, clearly a very legendary basketball player, and he will be definitely missed. And we offer our condolences and pay our respects, thoughts and prayers to his family and to anybody who feels affected by his loss. With that said, I think it's a good time to just address what crossword puzzles mean to me. People talk about crossword puzzles all the time in the context of escapism. That a crossword puzzle in the paper is like the one part of the newspaper that is supposed to cheer you up and not bring you down. And undoubtedly tomorrow it's going to be, we know what the front page story is going to be, and we also know what page so-and-so is going to be. It's going to be the puzzle. And the world is full of tragic things, unnecessary, violence, and just things that we'd rather not see and we'd rather not ever have happen. But there is one thing that is also consistent every day, and that is we know that we're going to be able to solve the puzzle. And what's in the puzzle, what's being referenced there, the kinds of vocabulary that touches your brain every day, the ingenuity of the themes, the cleanliness of the fill, the beauty, the aesthetics of the construction are kind of like entering a different world. And it doesn't take away from the tragedy and the sadness of the world, but it does give us hope that there is something to look forward to every day. And that's why I think more than any other hobby that I've undertaken, and this for me, this is a hobby. Crossword puzzles are an art. I don't want to publish a puzzle that brings anybody down with words that are unnecessarily demeaning, insensitive, violent, and even more so, that's the bare minimum. I would like to uplift people, and upliftment can be done through wordplay and through funny puns and themes, but it can also be done through just inclusion and trying to be mindful about how we clue things and what we put into a puzzle, what we highlight in every day. So I don't want to spend too much time talking about this, but I do want to say that if there's anything that I can take away from what happened today and what I've been reflecting on in the past hour or so, it's life is short, so be kind to one another, and that includes in crossword puzzles, both in the puzzles themselves, if you're constructing, and in the discourse around them, if you are commentating or solving. So that's my little aside on that today. Okay, with that said, I do want to get started with some construction, and I think people are trickling in. I'm not sure how many people saw that we're live yet, But I'm going to just in case you are watching this later or you're watching this live, you can. YouTube allows you to rewind and go back about 5-10 minutes, even longer if you need to go figure out what happened in the stream. And also, there's a chat window, so you're welcome to type in things in the chat, and I'll try to read those comments as often as possible. A little bit about me, just really quickly, because this is kind of like technically my first real stream. I'm a 23-year-old crossword constructor. Well, my day job is I'm an MD PhD student in St. Louis, Missouri. Like I said yesterday on the stream, that means I'm getting too many degrees and I'm going to be in school for way too long. I got into crosswords, solving them about 5 years ago, and I got seriously into them a couple of years ago and started constructing maybe 2 years ago, and really started thinking, okay, well, I can submit puzzles to venues, and I think I'm proficient enough to actually, make puzzles, for real, about last year. And I had the awesome blessing to have several really amazing, some of the forefront, the constructors at the forefront of the field, be my mentors. Eric Agard, Will Nediger, several others who just were very receptive and responsive. And I think that's incredibly important. So if anybody's watching this, before you invest in anything, I think the first thing that you ought to do if you really want to get into crossword puzzles is try and find somebody who will pull up a seat for you at the table. And there are plenty of people out there who are willing to do it and are ready, because it's a great community. So thanks to my mentors, because without them I wouldn't be here today. I just want to quickly address this green screen behind me. I set it up yesterday. I couldn't figure out how to chroma key myself out, so you're just going to have to see my face on the green screen the whole time. I'm not sure if I can even fix that in post, but it's not a problem. As long as it's visible, I'm visible, and you can hear me, then I think we're good. There is a subscription. I know that plenty of YouTubers, I'm not a YouTuber, but plenty of YouTubers ask for subscriptions. I don't mind. Whatever you want to do with your YouTube account is up to you. There is a little subscription bell button, I believe, at the bottom, and I don't know how frequently I'm going to stream, but if I do, you will get a notification in your email if you hit that button, so it's up to you if you'd like to or not. And in terms of like ground rules for the stream, I'm really new to this, so I don't know what the ground rules are for streaming. I'm just going to keep it clean, and I'd appreciate if you could do that in the chat as well. We're all friends, and but please do feel free to just chime in if you got any questions. There's no such thing as a dumb question, and there's no such thing as a bad suggestion. I honestly believe that. So if you type something in, I'll try and comment on it, and we'll see what we can do together. Okay, so I want to get to the resources that I'm going to be using to make this puzzle. I have a blank screen in front of me, so let me first start with the software that I use to construct, and there are two major kinds of software. This is Crossfire, which is a cross-platform constructing software that's available for $50. I will try to remember to post links to all these resources in the description of the video after it's finished. This software is one of the two major software platforms that support crossword construction. And I use it because I have a Mac, and it's really the only software that works on a Mac. Works fine for me. It does have a couple quirks, but they're not terrible. The other major kind of software that you can use is called Crossword Compiler, I believe, and that is available on PCs only. So if you have a PC, that's also $50, I think, and it's kind of like the industry standard. But Crossfire is also very useful, and it does almost all the same things that the other software does. The only real difference is that Compiler has some stock grids that will, so if you feed it a few theme entries, it'll automatically give you some grids that'll work with those lengths of theme entries. With Crossfire, you have to do that yourself. And I actually prefer that because I don't like using stock grids. I think that you can get yourself into some really nasty corners and weird letter combinations if you don't place your black squares well yourself. So that's Crossfire. Now, this is just a blank grid, and I'm just going to, I can put in some black squares here, and as you can see, as a shift click, I'm getting black squares that are put in symmetrically, if I didn't want to have a symmetrical grid that's 180 degrees rotational symmetry, I could turn off this preserve symmetry option, and then when I put in squares, it doesn't really make a symmetrical square in the opposite corner. I hit Command G to clear the board. And you can use this option if you wanted to do left-right symmetry, where you'd basically have to put in the squares yourself manually, because currently Crossword does not have a left-right symmetry option. But as you can see, I mean, this is just a blank grid, and I'm going to put in some words in here to seed the puzzle, which are going to be my theme entries, and then I have to fill around those. So to fill around them, you obviously need a list of words that's going to feed in suggestions for words that will fit with certain letter patterns. And Crossfire has a baked-in default word list, but it's I think it's uniformly agreed that it's not good, so we're not going to use that. I use a combination of several word lists. I'll pull them up here. So this is just, like my one of my folders in my computer, and here I have several word lists that I use for construction. I subscribe to Jeff Chen's word list from Xword Info. We're going to go to his website in a second. And if you pay a $50 fee to become an Angel subscriber, and then a $200 fee separately in order to get access to his curated word list, you get this file. And it's got, I think, something like 100,000 words in it. Most of them are very good. Some of them, he's got every constructor. Their word list has, certain elements. They have certain things that they're interested in, and you'll notice that Jeff Chen apparently likes tea a lot, so he's got a lot of tea-related entries, and that's all fine. I mean, I like tea too. It's just that if I were to make a word list, I would put a few different things in there. So I have, I use that as a base. Usually I use that for short entries, because he has a very well-curated short entry list, 3, 4, 5 letters or so. I also use Peter Broda's list, which is freely available, and thank you so much to Peter Broda for making this available. It's a godsend to anybody who does construction. His full word list is something like hundreds of thousands of entries. It's crazy. But then, he's got lots of short entries in there, which I'd rather not have in my puzzle, just because he put everything in there. And by the way, all these word lists are scored, so I'll show you what that means in a second. Effectively, it's got, we've got a score for every word that's in there. And by the way, if you're just joining the stream and this is all you're aware of all this stuff, I'm sorry, this is going to be a little bit of a not a refresher. You already know this, but I'm just kind of going over this for anybody who's new to construction. So please bear with me. So scored word lists, basically there's a list of words, and then for each word there's a score, a numerical score, and that's what we use. That's what the software uses in order to determine what are the best fill options to put in a particular area of your grid. So what I've done is I wrote a script in MATLAB, because that's a programming language I use at work, so I use it for this too, to sort through all of the entries in Peter Broda's list that are scored above certain cutoffs, 65, 70, 75, or 80. And also only words that are 7 letters or longer. So effectively what I've done there is I've taken out all the short words, and I've only taken the long words that are highly scored in his list at different cutoffs. Usually I include the Peter Broda 80 list in my constructions, because I think the words that he has 65 to 80 are kind of on the fence for me. The ones above 80 are generally very good. His are scored from 50 to 100, I believe. And those words that are, that are highly scored are naturally words that you would really like to see in a puzzle. Strike that is like a 10-letter, really catchy phrase. It's something that, you would hear every day. So that's a juicy piece of fill you'd want to put in there. And things like reinvigorating is a word. It's a word in the dictionary, but it's not really a word that is an asset to your puzzle. It's kind of just taking up space. And there's words that are really not words that are scored very low. So those are automatically taken out of my list. And in addition, I also have I've written a word list with about 1,000 entries that's got modern stuff in it. So this is stuff that, every day I'm adding to this list. Stuff on Twitter, stuff I see in the news, stuff I hear every day, new memes, new, catchphrases, new slang. I put that in here, trying to be mindful of inclusivity. And I also, spurred by a recent Twitter thread that I started about Indian food and puzzles, I made an Indian food word list. So I've scored those at 60 points, I think, or maybe 65, I don't remember. But if it's going to my Crossfire fill interface is going to prioritize those entries. So if you see a lot of Indian food, that's why. I'll try to limit to just 1 or 2 entries, and that's about it. Hi, Karen. I just see Karen, or I don't know if that's how I pronounce your name, but I see you're in the chat. Thank you so much for joining in, and thanks for saying hi. I'm glad this is helpful to you. So these are my word lists that I'm using. So first of all, I have Crossfire. I have word lists. And the way I load word lists into Crossfire is I go up here to Preferences, I go to Dictionary, and I have loaded them all in here. And if I hit Add, I can select, from all my different word lists that I have in here. Now, Crossfire only takes dict files, D-I-C-T, and a dict file. Let me see if I can pull this up for you, what it would look like. I'm just going to show you Peter Broda's list as an example. It's essentially just a text file where every word is on a separate line. There's a semicolon at the end of the word and then the score. And that's it. And to convert it to a dict file for Crossfire, I just changed the file extension from txt to dict, and that's it. So it's very simple to do manually. Crossword compiler has its own cancel. Okay. Crossword compiler has its own interface, and I believe they take txt files, so you don't have to worry about this conversion, but it's effectively the same system. So I have all of these queued up, and I have Indian food word list at the top, which means that that'll be prioritized, followed by Jeff Chen's list, followed by, this is just a file that this is basically some kind of Crossfire default. I never use it, so I don't even know what it does. And that's Peter Broda's list at the bottom. I am iffy on whether or not I want to include the modern word list. I'm going to leave it out for this puzzle because, as you'll see, I'm trying to go for a Monday difficulty puzzle, which is the easiest kind of puzzle. And some of these entries are just a little bit too new and probably not Monday level. So I'm just going to leave that one out for now. Hit OK. And so I've just gone through Crossfire and dictionaries. And next, I want to show you some resources that I use for theme development, theme set brainstorming, and for general crossword. They're just generally useful for crosswords. Excuse me. So I'm going to pull up a browser window, and I'm going to be using incognito for a lot of these searches, and I will explain why in just a little bit. It's not because I have anything to hide. I'm streaming everything. Let me log in here. So this is Xword Info, and I'm currently logged in. And this is one of the first resources that I ever came across when it came to crosswords, because I started with the New York Times crossword, as many people do, and Jeff every day would post a little blog post about what the puzzle was that day. Most importantly, this is where I get the Xword Info Jeff Chen's word list. And I also have they also have here a clue and answer finder, which they say is their most popular page in the website. And you can type in search phrases here. For example, if I want to say cross asterisk, it'll pull up every word in their database that has cross and then anything that comes after that. So, oops. Just 1 second. Okay. So, this is a very useful resource for finding theme entries, and I use it quite a bit. Another resource that's very useful along the same lines is OneLook, onelook.com. And on OneLook, we have basically the same kind of search. You can do cross asterisk, and it will pull up many, many more entries that fit that pattern, including hyphens and numbers and all kinds of things. I believe how OneLook works is that they scrape lots of databases like Google and things like that, Wikipedia, and they just pull entries. So you're going to see stuff here that's like not really a thing. Cross collateral clause, excuse me, tongue twister, is like not something I'd ever want to see in a puzzle. But it is a thing apparently. So what you can do here is you can sort by commonness, and you can see how many hits they have in their database. I don't actually know what these hits refer to, but it's going to sort by entries in descending order. What you want to do here is you want to go to Customize and select the option that says Letters Only, which is Crossword Puzzle Mode. So it will disregard any white space that includes spaces, hyphens, punctuation, slashes, apostrophes, any of that stuff. It'll only consider letters in your search string. So that's helpful, for example, if you want to do something like, if you're doing a theme where you have like the word info in the middle, it's going to give you stuff which has, a fist within 4 walls. It's going to disregard this little space right there. That's not part of the search string, but it's included in this search results. Okay, the next resource I want to show you is called Cluer. It's by Matt Ginsberg, who's kind of like a guru of data-driven crossword construction. This is, I don't remember where it is. Here it is. You can find it at this link, otsys.com/clue. And it's a downloadable interface that's got a huge database of clues that Matt Ginsberg has curated over the years. And this searches across, it indexes a variety of mainstream puzzles, but not any of the indies. So you'll see New York Times, TAU is Bentaussig, which would be the American Values crossword puzzle. American Values Club, I apologize. This is Cross Synergy. I don't remember what this is, but basically it's got a bunch of different kinds of puzzles in here. And if you type in a word like crossword, it'll give you a list of clues. I don't use this very often, except in cases when I have to check if a word is legit. And sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. And if something has been clued before in a puzzle, especially in a mainstream puzzle, you can often be relatively sure that it's a legit word, but that's really not that's not always the case. So you do have to use your own judgment. But if you need to make sure, is this going to be a word that I can bank on? Sometimes it's useful to check. For example, something like INOT, which stands for in overtime, is not great fill according to me. I don't really use INOT that often. But it's been in puzzles a lot, and you can see that here, as well as on this database, which will also index all the New York Times clues. As recently as like 2 weeks ago, it was in the puzzle. So that means that it's probably okay to put in a puzzle that you want to submit to New York Times. However, that you should be discerning with your own, taste. If INOT is not something that you say, and it's something that you would like kind of look sideways at if it were in a puzzle you were solving, then it may not be the best idea to put it in a puzzle that's authored by you. So that's what I use this for, and especially when I'm writing clues for, at the end of when I'm making my grid, and I need to kind of see, I don't want to copy previous clues, and I want to make sure that I'm getting at a different angle. Or sometimes I don't even have an angle, and I'm just like, is there any way to clue this at all? Even common words like lieu, L-I-E-U, there's really only a few ways to clue that. You can see 254 times is clued as stead, 153 times is place, 114 times is in blank of, and so many umpteen variants of that. There's really only one way to clue that, honestly. So if you were trying to clue words like that, it's useful. Let me see if there's any more resources we're going to use. We're going to use Crossword Nexus, which is here we go. Okay, Crossword Nexus is a collection of different tools. I forget who this is authored by, and I should really know that. But it's got algebraic crosswords, which allows you to kind of, you want to do some theme searches where you're replacing one string of letters with another. You can put that in here, and it'll give you a list. It's got some Wikipedia search options. Like yesterday, I was trying to find somebody with the name of Jan, and it gave me a list of people from Wikipedia whose first name is Jan, sorted in descending order of basically number of hits. There's some metric that they use for that. That's another tool that's useful. One more tool. Let me try and find it quickly here. I didn't plan to show this, but where is it? Reference is Patrick Berry's Crossword Constructor Handbook. I'm not going to show the whole reference because, it's a copyrighted resource, but it's $10 on his website. It was one of the first things I ever read when I started constructing. It's super useful. Very, very, very useful for constructing crosswords. So he's got, examples of themes. He's got, I think, like 75 examples of crosswords, full crosswords with clues and solutions. And he goes over the basics of how to construct. Okay. I hope I didn't bore anybody who is already up to speed on all this stuff. But that's about as much introduction as I wanted to have. The last resource we're going to be using is probably the most important one. That's our brain. When I was brainstorming the theme for the puzzle that I wanted to have today, I had a brain flash. I was like, oh, okay, this is a phrase that I hear commonly, and I had to think of things that would fit with that phrase. And the first thing that I thought of was a word that I really wanted to see in the puzzle, and that ended up being part of my theme set. So I didn't need to use any of these resources to come up with the first 2 out of 4 entries in my theme set, one being the revealer, one being one of the last theme entries. So here is the theme set that I brainstormed for today. And I apologize if this is kind of disorienting or disorganized. I'm using one monitor and I'm trying to show everything as clearly as possible. This is a very, very simple theme set. As far as puzzles go, 15 by 15 puzzles. Hi, Ricky, and hi, the 3 Goldies. Thanks for joining. The 3 Goldies, thanks a lot for jumping in. It's okay. You can rewind. Everything is archived. I think right. You can rewind right now if you want to. I just went over about a 15-minute introduction into all the resources that I'm using for construction. And please chime in if you got questions or comments or suggestions. I'm happy to field all of those. Okay. So here's the theme set for today. It's just 4 entries, and it's 38 theme squares, which is very few. Well, it's not very few, but it's on the lower side for a 15 by 15 puzzle. This is going to be a blog puzzle on my Sid's Grids blog, and so I don't really have to worry about trying to wow any editor with crazy theme, construction, grid construction, or a really amazing theme. And this is a kind of like a first stream where I'm trying to show my process. So I thought I'd go with a really simple theme. So the theme here is based on this revealer, side hustle, which is something that I remember saying to someone just 2 days ago. I was saying like, yeah, I have a little side hustle. I do crosswords. And I was like, oh, that'd be interesting. That would be an interesting phrase to build a puzzle around. So as soon as you have a phrase like this, this is a really good idea. This is a really good phrase to use as a revealer or a title of a puzzle. Let me explain what that is. A revealer is canonically in a crossword puzzle. There are several across entries that go horizontally, and the last sequentially of those across entries is often a revealer clue, which means that solvers are not going to know what the theme of the puzzle is until they get to that clue. They read the clue, which has something to do with the other themer entries, and they say, oh, okay, that's how those theme entries are related. And you want your revealers to be fresh, interesting, in the language phrases that have double meanings often. So one meaning would be a literal definition of the revealer entry. So side hustle here would be like second job, or would be Uber driver, or driving Uber, e.g., right? Something like that. And then you'd have like ... ellipsis, or comma, and then you'd say, or what all of the starred entries have, ? And the reason that works is because side hustle can be interpreted as meaning hustle that's on the side, the literal side of the grid. And once you start brainstorming themes, you'll see phrases like this and say, oh, okay, that I can use that as a revealer for a puzzle. You can also use this as a title for a puzzle, and some outlets like Universal, Wall Street Journal have titles for puzzles. And instead of needing a revealer, you could just have a title, and you could have 4 theme entries that are where there's no revealer in the puzzle. I happen to like revealers more because I think that it's more interesting to suspend, have some suspense for the solver. How are these things related? And then when they get to the end, they see the revealer, like, I got it. Okay, these are. I see the wordplay here. I see the geometry of the puzzle that you're trying to show me. So you start with this, and that's I put the enumeration here, which is the number of letters, the number of characters in that answer. And because crosswords have 180-degree rotational symmetry, we want to find a set of theme entries that's also rotationally symmetric. And the way, in layperson terms, what that means is I want to have a theme answer that begins a puzzle that's length 10, and then one that's length something else, let's say X, another one that's length X, and then my 10 length revealer. So if I start with this, I need a symmetrical pair for that, which is a themer of length 10. And then I need at least 2 more to have a 4-themer puzzle that are of equal lengths. I could have a 5th revealer in here. Let's say I had one that's 7 letters long. And then I could put that smack in the middle of the puzzle. And it would go right here. And that's a very common way to have 5 themers in a puzzle. This could also have been 9 long, like that. This is a 9 length themer, or 11, or 13, or 15. But for reasons we'll get into in a second, 7 and 15 are the easiest lengths to work with for a central themer. And you can kind of see why, because if I have a length 9 themer, I have to have 3 black squares on this end and this end in order to prevent myself from having a 2-letter word here. And that kind of divides the puzzle into 2 halves. And you're forced to put 7 long downs of length 7 in these corners, which can be quite constraining. And if you don't want to do that because you can't, or it's not easy to fill, then you have to split these up into 3-letter words, which are kind of like the forgotten children of crosswords. They're very they get boring easily because there's only so many 3-letter words you can have, and they're just easy to, it's just kind of a slog to solve through those. So when possible, I like to go for either puzzles that have 4 themers or puzzles that have 5 themers with a length 7 or a length 15 central entry. And if I can't, then I just kind of make do with what I have. So let me quickly explain again what's going on here. I've got side hustle, and side hustle literally means like a side gig. So I'm putting the word gig that's hidden in these 3 entries on the sides of my grid. And it's going to work like this. So I'm going to put this off to the side here. Usually we start the first themer in row 3 because it allows us to put a little finger of length 2 blocks right here in the top 2 rows. And the reason we start in row 3 is because 3 letters is the minimum number of letters that a word can have in a crossword puzzle, traditionally. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to shift click here to make a little finger of length 3. And you'll notice that this little quadrant, this little corner, now has 3 10-letter words. And that's going to be really hard to fill. That's called a triple stack. You see those a lot in Friday and Saturday New York Times themeless puzzles and other themeless puzzles. So I'm going to separate that with 2 blocks. Actually, we'll do that at the end. First, I'm going to put in all the theme entries. So I've got side hustle here, and I've got whirligig here. Oh, oops. I've got Gigi Hadid, which is the entry that I immediately thought of when I thought of this this theme. And that's it. Those are our theme entries. I'm going to highlight these in purple by hitting Command T on my computer, which marks them as theme entries, T for theme. And I'm going to save this right away. Let's see, I'm going to put that in here as side hustle. Now I should make a folder. Also, spoiler alert, if you're going to solve this puzzle, we're going to basically spoil the puzzle for you right now. So I hope you're okay with that. Okay, great. So now we have our theme entries. And I've made these little fingers because if you notice, if I didn't have black squares in those positions, I wouldn't be able to put a word here because it's only too long. So I have to put black squares in. Crossfire automatically highlights entries that are in pink that are either 1 or 2 long, which is not permitted in American crosswords. And it also conveniently highlights any letter strings that just don't have any fill in the word list that can fit there. So for example, there's blank blank S, blank blank I, and so on. There's only one fill entry that works here, which is Associated Press, which is why it's highlighted here in brown. But for these blank blank T, blank blank W, blank 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 D, and so on, there's nothing that goes there in the word list. And you'll often find that to be the case when you first lay out your themers. So I'm going to first put two blocks here. And then, like I said, this corner is going to be difficult to fill without inserting a couple blocks to separate these themers. Now, I could do this. I could put 2 blocks right here and make a couple, make this 6, 3, 4. I prefer not to do that because I try to avoid having too many 3-letter words. And the way, one of the ways to avoid doing that is to have, to avoid putting any 3-letter words in the corners. If I do this, I automatically have 4 3-letter words, which I've highlighted here in green. And, you need 3-letter words to kind of glue together the puzzle anyway in the middle. So if you start out by having 4 3-letter words already in the corner, you're kind of starting at a deficit. So I like to have 4, 5, 4. I could also do this, which would be 5, 4, 4. I'll do this instead, just for now. Now let's look at some letter patterns that we want to separate. So now we get into the grid design phase. By the way, if anybody has questions or just want to just want to say hi, let's see how many people we got right now. I've got 6 people here. So if you're here, you want to say hi, just feel free to just, put a message in chat. So I'm going to start by kind of separating this section so that this area doesn't have to interact with this area. Oh, also, if it wasn't clear, the GIG, the reason why this theme works, I should have mentioned this, is that GIG is on the side of the grid in each of these entries. Gig, gig, gig. So they're literally side hustles, side jobs, side gigs. I'm going to put some black squares here to separate this section from this section. And I'm going to put some black squares here for now. This down entry, these down entries just have a G. And what I can do is mouse over this down entry in Crossfire, and it will give me, if you see in the bottom section of this little yellow tooltip, it says there are 613 entries that are 10 letters long that have a G in the fifth position. And that's great. It means that I have lots and lots of options to fill that slot. And you'll find that when you have like a long slot, like 10 letters, 11 letters, 9 letters, 8 letters, that has only 1 letter in a certain position, unless it's like a J or an X or something, which is a tough letter to fill, you'll have lots and lots of options. So this is the optimal way, in my opinion, to fill a crossword, is to try and find the black square positions which maximize the number of potential fills for every slot. Basically, to create a grid which is the least constrained from a filling perspective. So I try to have at minimum 10 good fill options for every slot in the whole puzzle, because that gives you, exponentially or like factorially greater number of fill options for the whole puzzle. Whereas if you only have like 1 or 2 good fills in a corner or between 2 themers somewhere, you're kind of stuck. You have to use one of those 2 fill options, then you have to build around that. So we're going to start with this. And let's see, I don't want this corner to be too choked off. So if I put a block here, I'm basically, the only way to get out of this corner is through this theme entry. That's a long entry. And also this is the northwest corner where most people start solving crosswords. So I want to leave this open. What can we do here? I can put a block here. And as you can see, it also creates a symmetrical position. I can put a block here. No, I'm going to put a block. Right, so you can see here I have 8 options. Awaked, which I don't really like that word. I would. Swaged, swayed, swiped, swound, twined, two-bid. There's only about 4 words there that I like, so I don't want this slot to have blank W, blank, blank, blank D. This slot also, I've got like I do, which is kind of, crosswordese doubled. Iliads, which is really hard to clue correctly. Embeds, which is much rarer in the US than embeds. So I don't like this either. So we're actually going to start with trying to separate these 2 central themers. We can do that that will make this section a little tricky to fill, potentially. And something like this sections off the puzzle into two big triangles. So I try not to have that either. We can do something like that. So this blank blank T blank blank R blank 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 has 200 and something, 215 odd down entries. This one blank blank A blank 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 A blank blank S blank blank has like about 100. Those are both pretty nice slots. So I want to leave these open because I'm almost positive I can fill both of these with nice long downs that are colorful. This down entry, blank blank T blank blank W blank blank, has only 5 entries that are scored at 60 points in my word list, which is kind of like the high tier of words. So I'm not too keen on this down. I might want to split this up. This one should be good. Yeah. I can already tell by the letters, the D and the E are pretty common letters, so this should be pretty easy to fill, this down. But I'm going to block it off just to make this easier to fill. This is a Monday. I'm trying to aim for Monday difficulty, so I want the fill to be at about a Monday level, which is easy. So there's no need to go for, not only is there no need, but it's kind of prudent to avoid obscure and challenging words. I'm just trying to find, so I'm just going through this process now where I'm going down, looking across to see if there's any ways to make this, where I can put blocks. I'm at 74 words right now. 78 is usually the maximum for American crossword puzzles. It's like the industry standard. This blank 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 U down here, I just noticed that is not great. There's only a few words here that I would like to have in a puzzle. So let's see. I mean, we can probably start there when we fill. So we can choose one of those words that we like. I'm not too happy with this layout. There's too many words that are running into each other. No, let's see. It's also that we're not locked into these positions for the themers. This top one and this bottom one are more or less locked in because it's pretty standard to have them in these positions. I could move this down one and this up one row. But these two, I could easily move them inwards one row and have more space in this upper section, this lower section to have blocks there. This is the most standard, the row 3, row 6, row 10, row 13 are the most standard rows to put 4 themers into. Let me try. I gotta undo this first. I'm gonna try quickly. Because these themers are short, it shouldn't be too hard. Okay. So now these two themers have to interact in 3 different adjacent downs, which actually isn't very bad. There are some theme entries which might force you to have more than 3 or 4 or 5 even adjacent downs be interacting with multiple themers. So I'm at 70 words here. Now, immediately this long across and this long across stand out to me. and this one in the middle as well. These are going to be confusing from a theme from a solver's perspective. They're too long to be non-theme answers, so I'll want to block them off. This is a very old school grid. The combination of these parallel diagonal staircases. This was very common, several decades ago, when that was like what people thought a crossword should look like. No, I didn't want to put a thing there. What about this? We're at 72 here. These downs might be a little hard to fill. $74. Okay, this across needs to be blocked. I'm curious. Let's see if this fills. So we're at 74. So on a Monday, we'd want to go as high as 78 in order to try and make the fill as Monday-ish as possible, which means simple, common, everyday words, not too many complicated and trivia-based phrases, and not a lot of like obscure crosswordese, or if any. You want to have like ideally a very clean grid. So the other thing that I haven't talked about yet is what are known as cheater squares, or I guess less pejoratively, helper squares. Those would be basically a square like this one right here, which doesn't change the word count. So if you notice, I'm still at 74 words. If I take that out, I'm still at 74 words. Whereas if I were to place a square, let's say, where can I put a square? Here, I would be at 76 words. And that actually just created a new cheater square right here. If I took this one out, I'm still at 76. So cheater squares, which I think is really not a very good name, because it suggests that by using them you're cheating, which you're really not. All crosswords, all constructors use cheater squares at some point or other, because you really have to get clean fill sometimes. They help you. They'll help me kind of eat into this corner so that I don't have a crossing 6-letter word here with a crossing 5-letter word. And this, these staggered diagonal squares are much easier to fill, because most words in the English language begin and end with consonants. And consonants don't often like to be next to each other. You more often see consonants and vowels alternating. So these kinds of patterns are favorable from a fill perspective. Let's see if this fills. So I'm going to go to the fill tab here, and just hit best location, and lo and behold, we fill. So these bold entries mean that from this location, which Crossword has determined is the most constrained location in my grid, I've got lots of fills. So dog eat dog, if I hit that, in light gray, I don't know how well you can see this on your screen, but in light gray, I've got basically an autofill from Crossfire, where it's trying to maximize, simply based on the numbers, the scores of every word, it's trying to maximize the total score of the grid. Now, obviously, we're going to have, here it's suggesting a lig crossing alu, which is a word that I, have scored highly because it means potato in many Indian languages and is a kind of Indian food. But then we've got like dog eat dog next to dog. That's a blatant dupe. So obviously, the software isn't intelligent enough to make those kinds of decisions. It's not going to help you. It's not going to be smart about its choice of what words to put where. So you have to start somewhere. So let's try dog eat dog. Actually, let me see if there's something else here I like. So here it's sorting by final score, which means basically the total score of the grid that's normalized by some factor, so it's all around 1. If I sort by word score, I can pick out just the words that are highly scored in my word list. And these final scores will change as you add and remove words from your grid. many more times than once, I've had grids where, I put in a word and then it was scored low in terms of final score. And then as soon as I committed to it in my grid, Crossfire was like, hey, there's actually a really good fill that I didn't find before. So it's a good idea to just play around and select words based on what you think will be good. So again, I have my Indian food word list on. So I've got stuff like vada, peda, which are Indian foods. Vada is like a kind of a lentil-based fritter, I guess. And peda is a milk-based sweet. I'm not sure I want to do one across with one of those. So we're just going to go to final score and look up what are the best fills in this area. Oh, actually, before we do that, man, there's so many things to talk about. Okay, before we do that, I want to go to the summary page here in Crossfire and look at some of the statistics that we have here. 74 words is pretty low for a Monday, but with this few number of themers and with themers that are only 38 theme squares, we should be able to pull off a 74 word grid with no issues. Oh, hi, Cross Harmonics. Is that you, Val? I couldn't tell. I saw your Twitter handle is Cross Harmonics, so I think that's Val. Hey, thanks for coming. Karen asks, hi, can you please explain the ranges of the word and grid scores? Sure, absolutely. Let me just take a drink of water real quick. Okay. So, as I was saying before, I'm not sure if you were here, Karen, beforehand. I have several word lists that I use when constructing. And I've got word lists that, every word list has a word on every line, and every word has been given a score. These are all manually done. So you can imagine how long it takes to manually score hundreds of thousands of entries. So, oh, thanks. It is Val. Cool. Thanks for coming. So, these word scores, this column, is the manual scores that mostly Peter Broda and Jeff Chan have assigned these words in this grid. The grid score is a measure, I don't exactly know what it is, but it's a measure of, I think, the local favorability of letter combinations. So what does that mean? Well, if I have a word here like jigsawing, this J is very constraining because it's the third position in a four-letter word in the across entry. And there's only so many words that have a J in that position. Baja is one of the few that I can think of. You can see here they have dejas and deja vu, which is basically a partial. Fiji, goji berry, hajj, which means like the Islamic pilgrimage. PBJs, Raja. I mean, these are all kind of like, okay, Phil. So that would be given a relatively low grid score. And also final score, because the final score is a measure, I think, not just of the local grid favorability, but of the overall favorability in terms of both letter combinations and in terms of the average word score of every word in the grid. Meaning that, like at the end, what Crossfire is telling me here in this column, the final score column, is if I were to commit to having dog eat dog in my grid, what would the average word score be for every word in the grid based on that word being newly added? So you can think of it like this. If I were to put it in dog eat dog, how good can my grid potentially be at the end? And all these scores are near 1 in both of these columns because Crossfire is normalizing all the scores to the first initial fill that it found. I think that's how it works. So it basically says, okay, the first initial score that I found has a total word score, all words put together, of 3,500 points. I just made up that number. So if I added up all of the word scores, 50 points for this word, 60 points for that word, 50, 60, so on. For the entire grid over 74 words, I get 3,500 points. That's the first fill I found, Crossfire is telling me. And then it says, okay, well, now I've computed like thousands of other fills. And for each one of those fills, oh, this one's 3,600. That one's 3,700. So instead of giving me big numbers like 3,600, 3,700, 4,000, 5,000, so on, it's just dividing each one of those new fills by the first fill that it found of 3,500. I think that's how it works, more or less. So everything here is normalized to 1. So if you sort by final score, which is how it comes by default, how the software comes by default, then the first rows in this grid, in this table, are going to reflect the words in that slot that I've selected here that will maximize the total score of my grid. Does that make sense? I think I tried to give as much detail as I thought was appropriate, but if that was too confusing, just let me know. You can just think of it as, what is the best word to go here? And it's saying these are the best words to go here, and you can just go with that. That probably works too. Honestly, so much. I mean, there's some very prominent constructors. Anna Schechtman, I think that's how you pronounce her name. I believe is one of the very popular, very active constructor, New Yorker, who doesn't use construction software. I believe. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I believe reading that somewhere. There are probably plenty of other constructors who don't use software. Or use it just kind of minimally in order to submit their puzzles and things like that. You really don't need to rely too much on all this software. If you find fill that you like, then you're good to go. It's just that the software, understanding the software a little bit helps you if you want to use it. So, okay, Karen, yeah, great. Final score is ultimately more helpful, yes. But I would first, I would try and maximize the juice that you can get out of long entries, long slots. So here I've got this one long slot here that's, let me unhighlight all the 3-letter words. This is 9, this is 9. I've got 2 11s, and I've got 2 8s. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 long slots where I define a long slot to be a slot of length 8 letters or more, which is pretty standard. That's very good for a daily puzzle, to have 6 long non-theme entries. Ricky says he uses Crossword compiler, which seems not to have many of these details. No scores. It's perfectly viable, just a bit slower. Yeah, I used Crossword compiler way back. I installed it on a school computer or something, and it seems to be almost the same process. There's really only so many ways to do this besides training a neural net or something. So yeah, whatever software you use, I wouldn't get too hung up on the details. Just try and figure out the process and see what works for you. And if you get good fill, you get good fill, and that's all that matters. Okay. So I'm going to start with dog eat dog here. Actually, I'm going to first take out these cheaters, because if I can fill without them, then we don't need them. And we are filling. Okay. So I just let it run for a little bit. I'm going to close this. Actually, I'm just going to minimize it. Yeah, this fill is, it looks like this is going to be a little bit harder to fill without those helper squares in these corners. Now, how did I know to put helper squares there? Well, this corner is 4x5, which is right on the edge of what I would say is easy to fill versus hard to fill. As soon as you get something like a 4x6 or a 5x5 corner or larger, my experience is that you have to go through lots of different options of the incoming words to that corner to find fills that are acceptable. So in order to prevent against having to do lots and lots of refills, and also because I only have 34 blocks in this puzzle, and in general you want to stay under 40 blocks, 40 I would say is acceptable, I'm going to put a cheater in there, so I have 36 blocks. Yeah, and we've got, actually before we do that, I'm going to try and fill in the center. If I can't fill the center, there's no point. Yeah, I can fill the center. So if I do, I don't, ties is a weird plural, so I'm not too keen on that. Let's do chain. Right. So immediately in my mind, I'm not going to put kind here because CK1 is like, or C, I don't even know what this is, C cone is not recognizable fill. Lied crossing bod. The past tense of the verb ba is not good to me. And the same with these. So I'm going to go with hind. And then we've got stuff like Diane, giant, piano, Diana, Tiana, the African American Disney princess. These are all pretty good entries for this center. Let's go with giant because it's not a... We could go with Diane, certainly, for female representation in our puzzle. I'm going to opt to go for giant first for a couple of reasons. One, I want to see what this T in this last position does to this down entry. Because if I don't get anything here, then I'm not going to bother with giant anymore. E is probably a better letter to go. There are many more words that end in RE than end in RT. So let's try this first. We're going to go wide here, and then I'm going to look down. Eats dirt, get smart, latte art, which is pretty... Like I said, Jeff Chen likes his coffee and tea, so you're going to see lots of latte art and boba tea and stuff like that in his word list. Not smart. What is that exactly referring to? Sometimes you have to puzzle out why these entries in these word lists that you can buy and download have these entries that are scored at 60 or scored highly. Even stuff like autopart. Yeah, autopart as a singular is not really a great entry. Retro art is a little green painty. So the word green painty, that phrase refers to a combination of a noun and an adjective that doesn't really refer to a thing. So something that is a standalone thing. Like green paint is something you could buy at a hardware store, sure. But it's not like, why green? It could be blue or red or any other color. Versus something like, for example, latex paint, which is different from regular paint in some ways and would be more acceptable as an entry in a puzzle. Eats dirt is a little bit negative. So, well, we have options, so that's good. Let me go back and try Diane here. SAT score. I'm probably not going to do sets fire just because of recent events. I don't want to invoke any images of things that are not pleasant. SAT score and out there are kind of the only things in here that seem to be good. Art store is not bad either. Art store is a legit entry to me. Up to here I also like. Yeah, actually I like the giant fill better. So here's an example where even though Diane is scored more highly than giant, I actually like the giant fill better. So we're going to go with that. And latte art is actually pretty good. I want to check if latte art has ever been in any puzzle. Yeah, it's been in the New York Times. And let's check Ginsberg database, which indexes many other puzzles. It's been in the Jones and Crossword, Cross Synergy. Okay, let's go with this. The other reason for doing latte art is that it's comprised of pretty common letters. Ooh, and it crosses chaat. Chaat is an Indian food. It's not really a food. It's a category of food, which is like snacks, street dishes. YSL is not a Monday entry to me. It's a initialism, which is not well known to many people that I have talked to. Right. So I have several options here which have good downs. So here I've got SNL, For chant, chaos, we've got LOL, which I think is fine. Chafe, we've got NFL, and we're not going to go with that entry, but en blank 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 presumably has lots of fills. Chars, we've got URL. So instead of trying to fill this, I'm going to fill this down because I want to extract as much juice. By juice, I mean like I want it to be as snazzy of an entry as possible. Of thee I sing. I don't really connect with that entry. Small timers, close-minded, spells it out. Basmati rice is... I don't even have... That's not even from my word list, but that's great. I like that. Battle it out. Athleticism. Right, so words like athleticism are... You'd wonder why are they included, why are they scored at 50? At first I wondered the same thing. And then I kind of realized that even though athleticism is a pretty colorful word, it's hard to clue. You'd have to say something like trait of Usain Bolt, for example, or trait of Mia Hamm, for example. And for a Monday, I mean, that's fine. But as soon as you get into like later week puzzles, those kinds of clues are pretty... You know, they're not so fun. I want to try basmati rice, and then here we have to go with chaj. So this is a crossing that I would not be, even though these are both nice Indian food words. They're crossing, so I would not be too happy with that. What if we do battle it out as a little bit on the violent side. Guesstimate. Pal. Epsom. Okay. Let's see. Upma is another Indian food. These short words in uppercase are words that I added to my Indian food word list. Any 4-letter word ending in U is sometimes hard to fill. Sometimes hard to make it clean. Many of the words are ugly, like this. Not literally. Yeah, you can see that this 4x5 corner is already getting to the stage where I might need to do a little rejiggering of these blocks and these kind of leading entries to make it clean. Let's try something like that and then see bloom or plasm. Yeah, I'm not too keen on these entries. I don't like Epson either. Soft boiling doesn't seem to be very much of a thing as much as stuff like big business. Okay, I kind of like this. Chaos. Elude. Yeah, okay, we've got plenty of fill here. Right, so... Well, okay, is big business a thing, really? I think so. Well, okay, it's a film. It might be a little bit on the green paint side. Yeah. I'm not sure how much I like this, actually. Half of these clues are about this film, which I've never heard of. And the other half are not confidence inspiring because large companies collectively seems to be not on target enough for big business. So we're not going to do that one. I'm going to sort by word score. TSA officers. Ex-FBI crossing, TSA officers crossing chaff and XFL is not great on a Monday. Oops. Also, I should clarify, this puzzle is not going to be submitted. Oh, Ricky says big business isn't too green painty. Okay. Honestly, like, I never have feedback while constructing. I never get this feedback that this, hey, I don't think that's green painty. I never get that. So this is very helpful for me. Okay, let's try it. Let's go with that. It's a blog puzzle after all, and I don't need to win the heart of an editor, so I'm happy to give it a shot. Ghee is an Indian kind of butter. I lost my chaat here, so I'm happy to put an Indian food in this corner if needed. And if people are interested, I would be happy to share my Indian food word list. I'm just trying to make it a little bit more presentable to a wide audience. Let's see if we can do something with this. Yeah, there's plenty of fills here. Baha, there's only one way to clue Baha. Well, there's a couple ways, but Baba is usually clued as a cake, syrupy cake, which I've never had in real life. I'm sure it's great, but and IHOP is one of those entries where people make fun of it. They're like, "Oh, breakfast place, 4 letters. It has to be IHOP." Well, yes, but IHOP is a thing. You know, it's a place that you can go and eat. And I got pancakes there 2 months ago. So I don't see why entries like IHOP get so much criticism, because it's not like they don't belong in puzzles. I mean, if anybody who wants to start a company, if you want your company to get a lot of exposure, make your name your company with a short name with lots of vowels in it. I've seen Tesla in so many puzzles. Not that they need the help with advertising. Stephanie, hey, great to see you. Thanks for coming. Awesome. Yeah, Indian food is great. I don't want to be the poster boy spokesperson for putting Indian food into puzzles. I just think that there's not, I don't see enough of it. Or I see things like ATA, ATTA, clued as ATA girl or ATA boy, which I think is objectively not very good fill. And Atta, ATTA, refers to a kind of flour that's very common in Indian cuisine. And if the crosses are fair, I see no reason to continue cluing ATA as ATA girl or ATA boy, because Atta is something you can get at Whole Foods, or even sometimes I've seen it at Trader Joe's and even Walmart. So it's a thing. But thank you for your comment. And Karen says, for the latte art entry, one of the other word choices was get smart. Would that be generally known or pretty much limited to the boomer crowd? Good question. So I get to now demonstrate my process for checking whether or not something is well known. Certainly, I know what Get Smart is, because it's one of the most iconic TV shows of its time and very highly rated. So what I do let's say I didn't know what it was. What I might do is first go look at the Wikipedia page for it and see how long that page is. I can just tell by the scroll bar, this is a pretty long page. And that means that there's plenty to write about. That means that people have written plenty about it, which means that it's probably pretty popular. If it's got a short Wikipedia page, then you should immediately think that, okay, maybe this is either too new, or it's not very common or popular. That's the first thing you can do. The second thing that I like to do is when I Google, you see a number of results here. And this is why I use incognito mode. I mentioned this half an hour ago. This is incognito mode. in Google Chrome, which is a private browser window. Safari, Firefox, Internet Edge, they all have a similar feature. What this window does is it doesn't save any browser history, and it also doesn't bring over any cookies from your main browser windows. So it will not bring over all of the previous Google searches you've made in the past. And that means that, for example, if I were to type get into Google, all these autofills are the actual search queries that people in the world have made, sorted in descending order of popularity. But let's say that I had previously, searched for get something, like get an A on my exam tips, for example. If I had searched for that in the past, that search query would influence the results that I get out of this box. So I go to incognito mode to not have to deal with that, because I'm trying to assess how popular this phrase is. So now that I've done that, I see 5 billion results, which is a lot. But that's probably because I'm getting results where the word get and the word smart are both located in disparate places on a web page. And that's probably pretty likely. If you have any sort of like self-help page or, tutoring page or something, the word get and the word smart are probably in the page somewhere, but just not next to each other. So those pages are also included in this count. So in order to get an accurate estimate of exactly how many pages on the internet have precisely the phrase get smart in that order, get space smart, I put quotation marks around this search query, and I get 7.7 million results, which is much more on par with what I would expect from a 1965 comedy TV series. Now, I think Get Smart is so ingrained into American culture and the public consciousness that it's probably a great entry to put in the puzzle. I just think the latte art is something which, if not immediately apparent, is very inferable to people and is more modern. So there's nothing wrong with putting Get Smart in the puzzle. I don't think it's limited to the boomer crowd. If anything, people of my generation, after seeing Get Smart, might be like, oh, hey, that's pretty interesting. Let me go look that up. Maybe not. But latte art is something that anybody can appreciate. And you don't actually need to go watch a whole TV series to appreciate it. Here, latte art. Boom. Video, images. You can share this on Facebook, right? So I like entries like this because they're immediately apparent what they are. You don't have to have an entire TV show, experience in order to appreciate the entry. That's why I went for that. I didn't find a lot of options here that I liked. BANA, B-A-N-A, is not a great entry. Only a few ways to clue that. Yeah, Richard Gere is really the only option here, which is fine. But then I have Ipe. Crossing Gere is not a good Monday crossing. Ipe is like one of those ubiquitous words in crosswords because it has 3 E's. And I happen to know what it is. Yeah, I've got words like this in my word list, and I would never use this in a puzzle. I should really take it out. It's because I recently updated my Jeff Chan. I recently downloaded his update to the list, and any changes I made were not carried over to this version. Bama is another one that I would try to avoid. Yeah, I don't like this corner. Let's do something else. Good day, like as Australian, like an Australian greeting is not bad. But let's see what we have. Idli is a kind of Indian dish. Haya, beta, slate, bash. I kind of like this. Haya is not easy to clue unambiguously. Bess. Do I know what Bess is? First Lady Truman. Harry Houdini's wife. Is there anybody still alive named Bess? Not that, deceased people are not worth remembering. Bess Armstrong. Jaws 3D. Okay. This is a pretty short article. It looks like she has a very, she's very accomplished. I just don't know if I want to put that in a Monday puzzle. Monday difficulty, that is. Idled. Okay, we got plenty of fill here. Blase. Hey, Adam. How's it going? Thanks for joining 2 days in a row. Okay, so all of these entries at the beginning here have L in the second position because Italy is scored at 60 points in my word list. So let's not do that. And let's see if we get anything here. Sierra Leone is kind of a partial because you have to really clue it only one way. B1, I put that in a upcoming universal puzzle and I'm not too happy about it. There's only really one way to clue that, which is like unite spiritually with, and it's not really a thing. Geode. Biggs. I don't really like Biggs. Oh, it looks like this is the most constraining word. Beck. Glen crossing Reese is not great. And Beck, you could either clue it as the band, I think, or like Beck and Call. Those are the only ways that I can think to clue it off the top of my head. Begs. Beige. Bib. Nah, I'm not too happy with that. Oh, I couldn't have done Biggs because this is big as well. Yeah, like I had Biggs here, and I have Big crossing it, and that would have been a no-no. So I might have had to go back and redo that corner. Benz. Bevy. Berg. I'm trying not to have too many proper nouns in this puzzle. Bend. LAPD. Glop. Nah. Let's try a different word here. Oh, I could, let me do Idly here and see what I get. Bibs, Sibs, Blige, Blase, Blade. This is pretty good. Got Big Business crossing, Idly crossing Big Business, Idled, Blade, and Sims. Sims would be the only one that I'm concerned the people may not have heard of what Sims are. I think I'm spending a little bit more time than I usually would on this corner, but I think it's very it's good for me. It's a good exercise to sit down and take it slow and see how things kind of fall out. B-Day, G-Man, Berg, or Bern, Bern is a city in Switzerland, right? Yan, I'm not happy with that either. Yang would be good because of the presidential candidate. But B-Day and G-Man are two, Berg is already not really a word people say. People usually say iceberg. And G-Man and B-Day are both like single word and then three-letter word. Single letter and then three-letter word, which is not great. Baja, IHOP, Jeer, and Bags. Okay, Adam's suggesting we do this. Yeah. This would be great for like a midweek, later week puzzle, but Jeer crossing Jorge is not a cross that I want to have in a Monday puzzle. So I'm attempting to do this as like an uber clean Monday grid, and I would not want to have even though Richard Jeer is well known and Jorge, I could even give that a really easy clue like Spanish version of George, but I don't want to have two proper nouns crossing each other. So if none of these fills work, I'm just going to go out and try a different down here. Ord, named. Iran. Iran is like kind of a minefield entry nowadays. Sorry, Adam. I know that's kind of close to you, close to your heart from your New York Times debut. On end, amend. Yeah, now we're getting into like the iffy territory. How about this? Oh, B cup is like one of those entries I don't want to have in a puzzle. BCCs is not bad. Close bus. Ooh, I don't really like bus. Go on is I don't like this fill, but I'll just talk about go on real quick. I thought it was fine until somebody, I forget who it was, somebody pointed out that when read as a solid word, this can be seen as quite an insensitive entry. So I try to avoid that if possible. Yeah, I might. Elude is the only word that can go here. Yeah, let's try something else. Oh, actually, before I do that, let's try just a couple more fills here. Sometimes the best fills are at the bottom because they're just the most common words. Creed. Lurid. IUDs is actually a very good fill to me because it's one of those things that for some reason mainstream puzzles tend to avoid, and I have no idea why. Because it certainly deserves to be in puzzles. Blat. I don't like that. Berg is German for mountain. Berg means town. Got it. Okay, thanks, Karen. Yeah, B-U-R-G is, yeah, definitely. I'm saying that when I've seen Berg, B-E-R-G, in puzzles, it's usually clued as iceberg for short. Yeah. Ocean menace, Antarctic site, polar hazard. I don't think I've ever seen a clue that refers to it as German for mountain. Yeah. Right. Let's try Gee and see what comes up. Ices. Geese. Okay. I'm not happy with that either because of the best again. Word. Allowed. Yeah, I don't like any of these entries. Nothing against people named Ilsa or Ilya. I actually have a puzzle that has both of those. But not on a Monday. Boise. No. Naive. Bevy, grip, espy, nota bean. Or bene, I don't know how to pronounce that. IRAs. This is not bad. I'm only concerned about this one. Noise. Bess again. Skate. Irks, skate. Beso awesome. No, I can't do that. So as you can see, this process is very much like, trial and error. And I'm also commentating it. Maybe I should just be quiet for a little bit and just do this quietly. But I'm trying to commentate my thought process. Raid is not clued. That's fitting. No, I can't do that for the same reason. Hey, Mahima, that's my fiance. Mahima is in the chat. Thanks for joining. Yeah, we have plenty of people today. I'm really glad we have a good turnout. Again, this entry, G-O-O-K, is usually, will always clued as go okay, which already is not a very in the language phrase. And then as a solid entry, it's a slur. So that's really not good for crosswords. Can you, can everybody hear me okay? 1 second, let me check. Oh, okay. Okay, good. Opted. GTOs is not fill that I would expect people to know on a Monday. Acrid. Antied. E-card. E-card is one of the few E entries that I actually... Okay, great. Cool. People can hear me. E-card is one of the few E entries that I actually think is legit. And doing taxes, E-file is also an entry that I think is legit. Okay, so I'm now getting to like the point where I'm down here. These are all actually fair. I should really go through these. Ended. Graham, NORAD. No, can't do that. Fraud, IROC, GTOs, G'day, Glop, Ruled, Adore. Bray is, we can't do that. That's like a Scottish, like, valley or something. It's the things you learn from crosswords. Lured. This is probably the best one so far. Blaz is not good, though. Okay, this looks somewhat... GPAs I'm actually okay with. Bert. Aware. Bram. Bran. Nast. What is... The only way I know how to clue Nast is Condé Nast, the publication company. Oh, right. It's also a person. I would not clue Nast as a pro-Lincoln cartoonist. That seems a bit obscure to me. Even though it's been clued like that dozens of times, does not mean that it's worth putting in my puzzle. Condé Nast is one that I like, especially when clued with reference to Vogue or Reddit, that are both subsidiaries of Condé Nast. Let's write down that fill. That's actually not terrible. Okay. That's one option. Let's look at more. So you can see I had to go all the way down to... Where did I have to go down to? To roped. In order to find something that might be... Okay, oops. I wanted... Loped. Loped is not... Is that a word that I want to put in the puzzle? Eloped is a word. Yeah, I'm not going to put loped in my puzzle. Laned. Freud. The BF, there's only one entry that goes there. It's going to be a little... Yeah. Dared. B-Day. Iago again. Iago is like ubiquitous in crosswords because it has 3 vowels again. Rapid. Okay, so I probably have non-exhaustively gone through the options in this list just for one corner. So I'm not going to bother. Oops, I'm just going to do this with this fill. All business. Let's try spells it out. See what we get. I like chaos better than this because I have Ellen, which I like. E and N are nice ending letters as well. Spells it out is good fill. I would prefer to have spell it out without the S. Eerie is, again, very common in crosswords, 4 vowels, but it is a legitimate word. Admen and adman are not preferable because they're gendered. People who work on Madison Avenue can be men, women, and non-binary. Ergo is fine to me. From surf. Oh, this is Regan. I thought it was Reagan. Ramen. Irma is not great. Crossing. Well, ramen's not bad. Ramen, I expect people to know. Arson. Urs is like a language that I'd try to avoid putting in puzzles. Ergo. Let's try this. Peru. Muon is a particle, which I would not expect people to know on a Monday. No lie. It's scored at 60 points. Yukon is my fiance's university. Let's try and see if we can do something with that. Poco is a Spanish word. I don't know if it's been clued any other way. Yeah. Polo. Here I'm going to have Eli and Elia, both of which I try to avoid. Not because the people are deserve to be avoided, but because they're so common in crosswords. Asian. Again, I kind of have to go here. Elon. He gets a lot of representation in crosswords. Arson. Snap. Peen is in the hammer part. Is that really the only letter that goes there? Really? Snag? Yeah, I guess it is. Huh. I would be happy with this with this corner if it weren't for Peen. Elmo. Oh, man. Yeah, Pole is not great to me. Idris Elba, Urban. Hey, this is not bad. Okay, I like this. This feels good to me. Idris Elba is well known. Person of color. Which do I like better? Snub and bear or snug and gear? Snub. Yeah, snub is a little negative. I'm going to go with snug and gear. Gear can get so many different clues. It's great. Snug is a great entry. A great short word. And bear, sorry, snub has a B, which is one extra point than a G in Scrabble. So if I were being like excruciatingly Scrabbly, stingy with my Scrabble points, or what should I say, greedy, I would go for the B. Yeah, Val says go with snug. We're going to do that. But this is better, if you ask me. These are all good words. Liar, gear. Oh, I've got no lie crossing liar. Can't do that. Shoot. Oh, that's a shame. Okay. Elsa, the Frozen character. Yeah, I can't have Olsen or Orson crossing Elsa. Oh, man. Okay. If I had noticed that. Well, we had Liam, right? But I don't want to have Elba and Liam. Two men in one corner. Yeah, dupe. Yeah. I mean, there's Liam's we can clue, no problem. Hemsworth, Neeson. It's just like two men in one corner, right one above another on a Monday is not my jam. Yeah, I'm my standards for Phil have like skyrocketed after seeing this kind of stuff that people routinely put out, like Eric Agard and many others. Puree. I like puree. Eerie, which gets a lot of airtime in puzzles. Eric with a C, Eric with a K. Eric with a K is like Eric Satie. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Who the pianist and the composer. The only other Eric I actually know is Eric Agard with a K. He's getting a lot of shout outs in this stream. Erat as in QED, Latin phrase. Airs, apron. Leos. Okay, I'm not too... Poo-poo platter. Pupa is not very appetizing. Poo-poo platter is somewhat more appetizing. Sus. Spas. Very S-heavy corner. It's an option. Eras. Erin is female name. How has this been clued in the past? Herding dog from Hungary. Puli in South Indian languages means a tiger. That's probably not well known enough to put in a puzzle. A line? Yeah, Pule, Puli are not good enough. Eric. Same issue. Yeah, I know I've spent 30 minutes in this one corner. But that's kind of how it goes sometimes. Oh, Puri, the food. I don't like this though. Pure, Neon, Scan, Lion. Okay, this is probably my favorite fill so far. Ergo is not difficult. Not too difficult for a Monday. Argon. Oh, it was pure. Argon and Neon next to each other is kind of cute. And they're not crossing each other. Ellen, Marie Curie is a potential concern, but I think they're both very well known. They're both women. Oh, we didn't even pay attention to this section. Gave a say. Oh boy. Okay. I wonder if we're going to have to go back and undo all this stuff. Gas masks is at least yeah, chemical corner, yeah. Curie, argon, and neon. Gas masks is pretty colorful. Yeah, okay, we got Phil here. Risen is the only one I like. His Spasm, Chasm are the only two that I would like here. Yeah, okay, so this is mohair suits. What is that? Fabric made from the hair of the Angora goat. Okay, yeah, it's not my favorite fill, and it forces so many entries here. Gave a say? How would you clue that? Let speak? Give a say? I would think I would want that entry to be gave a say too. I don't like any of these. Oh, shoot. We're going to have to go back and do a little pulling out of this corner. Oops. I really should have looked at that first. Yeah, even though I'm like I said, I'm not an expert constructor, and I haven't done this while commentating. So let's see what we got here. Fan bases is good. I like that. Dallas TX is one of those entries that I know Will Nediger has told me he really dislikes. City and the two-letter state abbreviation, so we're going to avoid that. Also, the X is very constraining in the first position. X's are really good in the second position of a word, like the second letter, but not the first one. Apparently, people say this, like batch it, like bachelorette, and I think it's quite... I don't really think that's a thing. Well, I mean, I'm sure it's a thing, but I don't say that. I like fan bases. I don't mind putting Chris in this section. Choir, there. There is nice. Used to be kind of hard to clue, but I think it's nice now as a gender neutral prefix, or pronoun rather. Fiona, crossing choir. The A and the N is a little bit hard too. Yeah. Kate Mara is a pretty good entry to put here. Let's go with there. See what we get. Maybe we can get the fill back that we had if we can make it work. Fiend, T-Ball, the CW. Oh, man. I was watching... The CW is the channel that has Riverdale, right? Mahima, my fiance, was showing me that. And I was like, could there be worse dialogue? No offense. I'm sure it's a fine show. Otherwise, just the dialogue's a bit contrived. Theta is okay here. Pot, I don't like that. In theory, rate card, get weird. Get weird is pretty good. Hits hard. Sith Lord. I kind of like Sith Lord. I wouldn't mind Sith Lord. I mean, even if you don't know it, Star Wars is back in. I would imagine most people know Sith, and they can infer what the rest of this is. Troll. Troll's good. Yeah. I like this so far. We can put an H or an N here. So I see both H's and N's. T-Bolt is not great. T-Bond is not great either. Let's try an R first. Oops. Fiend, Rind. Fiend is a little is a little shout out to Crossword Fiend, the blog. Okay, and we have new fill. So time to do this corner again. I really should have done these two long downs first. Table linens is like one of those things that's kind of green painty to me, because isn't it just a linen that you put on a table? Do people call it table linen? Maybe it's just not in my wheelhouse. Clean living, blacklisted. It's kind of good. Laker is we can pay respect to our lost Laker. Rest in peace. Black lights. Lussie. Oh, we have a Lussie, but ATL Troth is not fun. Crab spiders is like, if I don't want to see a picture of it, I don't want to see it in the puzzle either. That's my rule of thumb. Swamp lilies. Okay, I'm not going to put that in. Shortlisted's okay. It's a single word, which I try to avoid. I like to have multi-word phrases or adjective noun or something. Black lights is also good. Let's do black L and leave this open. So this can be either black lights or blacklisted. Black like me, is that something I'm not aware of? So this can be all or ill, which is nice. This will be troll. Okay, let's put in Laker first. Let's see what we get. Yeah, we got lots of stuff. Oh, let me actually do this first. Yeah, 3.6 million results for Sith Lord in quotations. So that is a thing. Isle. Let's try that. I don't like these Latin plurals. Aura is fine. Aura. Corona is fine. Corone, really. I like isle. Isle's good. You can include this as preferred seat in a plane, maybe. Asti is like a dog in some movie, right? I don't really... That kind of crosswordese is not to be preferred in puzzle. Skier, Clem. Clem is in this college? Yeah, I mean, none of these are... This is not really a thing that I'm aware of, so I'm not going to put in the puzzle. Arthur Ashe. I grew up in Richmond, where he is very... Asta is a movie dog and Asti is a wine thing. I'm sure it is. If I get that in a puzzle, I just like okay, it's AST something, and then I go figure it out later. I think you're right. Maybe. Yeah, Asta's a dog. Asti is a wine. Nice. I don't ever really care about that. Okay, yeah, both pretty blech, or as according to today's New York Times, bleah, B-L-E-A-H. Asps is a word I did not know until crosswords, but upon further investigation, I've determined it is legit. A C is also something I never used in crosswords before. Smear, bash, heap, clap. Okay, this is pretty good. Oops. So as long as a C is like the weakest entry so far in this entire grid. But it is a word. Ironic that green paint has developed a meaning of its own, so it's not green painty anymore. I was thinking of making a puzzle with like green paint, Natick, what's some other ones? Crosswordese, some stuff like that, that was all insider stuff. Revealer. I made a puzzle where revealer is the revealer. It's on my blog. I don't remember which one it is. But I love that kind of inside baseball stuff. I just am afraid that it's Crossworld is good too. Yeah, I'm just afraid that it's going to be too alienating to people who are not really steeped in crossword culture. Okay, so this is another option which I like. Let's put this in my very low tech text file. Okay, right. So this is another option. I just want to see if I can get rid of a C. As if. Yeah, AMFM is not great. As to is worse, if you ask me. It's just a plural that's being disguised as a legitimate phrase. That's not a plural, partial. Lapse. Rupee. Try this. Apps and apso. Apso is like half of a dog. Dog's tail end, I think, included as once. Apps I never knew before crosswords. I don't like any of these. AP apartments is okay, actually. Oh, do I not have bruh? BRUH? What? Oh, yeah, I don't have that in this word list. You know what I should do? Just for fun. I'm going to load in my modern word list. And we're going to get stuff like bruh. Yeah, here we go. It's all scored at 110 because I'm just like, come on, we got to have stuff like this in the puzzle. Boba, brag, beef, bruh. All right, let's try this. Oh, never mind. Yeah, it's going to basically mess up the whole calculation of what is good, what are good entries and what are not, because I scored everything so extreme at 110. I'm working on a project where we're prioritizing modern entries, and so hi Sean Duncan says, this is so great, please do this often. I've never seen anyone construct on stream before. Oh, thank you. Also, I wish I had a word list better than the default one I got with Crossfire, but I'm cheap. Yeah, that is a toughie. So I'll quickly just mention this. How am I going to include Laker? I'd be sensitive to today's really sad events by Karen. That's very true. I was thinking, I would also be sensitive, and perhaps this is like a difference in philosophy. Somebody recently in a New York Times puzzle, they had the entry Jamal. They included in reference to Jamal Khashoggi. I don't know how to pronounce his name correctly. I apologize. The late assassinated journalist. And there was some significant discussion about whether or not that belonged in the puzzle. So my opinion is that a crossword is, especially a newspaper crossword, is a representation of the common consciousness of all the solvers who are solving it and all the people who are contributing to the puzzle. So I really don't mind referencing people who ought to be remembered, as long as it's done meaningfully and thoughtfully and carefully. But at the same time, you're absolutely right that it's important to be sensitive. With this particular entry, Laker, there are plenty of ways to clue Laker without reference to today's events, which are devastating and very tragic. I said a few words about that at the beginning of the stream. So I think it's okay to leave this in because there are plenty of Lakers that we could refer to, and honestly, even if we wanted to refer to Kobe Bryant, I think we could do it tastefully and sensitively. So I'm going to leave it in. Now, if we really wanted to, we could do liker or even liked or likes. Why don't we try that? Because I think because that's your suggestion. Let's give it a shot. And likes there's a really good clue for likes, which is Metric recently discontinued by Instagram. So they recently made likes private or kind of not visible or something. So that's a good way to clue that. We have a fill with Lakers, so that's good to know. Tilde. BTUs is pretty obscure unit of measurement. I mean, people know what it is, but it's just not. UVias, stuff like this you see a lot in crosswords. I had a little Twitter exchange with somebody recently about how stuff like Uvia, ulna are, they're certainly things. But even as a medical student, I am a medical student, I just don't see them in my everyday life, including in medical school. We don't talk about ulnas all the time. It's just not unless you're looking at kids' broken arms all the time, you're not going to be talking about ulnas or uvias if you're not an ophthalmologist. Let's try aisle again. Oh, I just saw Stephanie's comment. Bruh is 110. Well, I guess it is modern. Yeah, I was just saying I'm working on a project where we are prioritizing modern entries. So that's why I have a word list where those are all clued at 110. I like this fill. I like this one a lot. Yeah, okay, so I like this for several reasons. I got rid of a C. I got Asia, which is it's a thing. It's got like 1/4 of the world's population or something, right? More than that. Isle is great. We can do lots of that. Likes is great. Clef is a thing. You can expect people to know, and even if they don't know it. Ivies is pretty gettable. If I clue it as something like Harvard, Dartmouth, Brown, etc., right? Bail, you could do that in reference to like jail and prison, but that's pretty negative, or doesn't really have it doesn't evoke good images, positive images. So you could say bail is in dip, or not dip, but flake. The modernism for like, don't bail on me. Don't forsake me. Sean Duncan says, not a big spoiler. Pardon if that's a no here, but Lakers clearly an answer tomorrow's. Wow. I haven't solved tomorrow's New York Times puzzle. That is very sad. Wow. That's like the second time in 3 weeks that we've had a very poorly timed entry, which is a legitimate entry. I mean, that's not their fault. There was a recent unnecessary cluing of something with respect to a certain high-ranking person who has been accused of sexual misconduct, and that was well known before the clue was ever clued. The puzzle was ever clued. That kind of thing is just not forgivable. But stuff like this, where Laker comes up on a day like this, is just kind of shocking. This could be lakes or likes. I like likes better. Ill, I'm not going to clue ill as the slang that people tend to clue it as for some reason. It just doesn't feel right to me. Like, as in, I don't feel that I use that word in that way. And so it would feel disingenuous for me to clue it that way. I think that is important. Cluing voice is crucial, at least for indie puzzles. Okay, we finish this corner, and I was just saying I like this corner because not only because all these words are legitimate, but also because I've got a V, an F, a B, a K. I have some pretty nice scrabbly letters in here, and there's no reason that you have to prioritize scrabbly letters, except that if your puzzle's full of like L's, T's, R's, N's, E's, A's, I's, it gets pretty boring. I mean, you need to liven it up. No pun intended. You need to liven up your grid with stuff that, letters that are not everyday letters that you see. That's why letters like J, X, Q, Z, K, W, V are nice to have in a puzzle. And you can see here in Crossfire, we get a live letter count of how frequently letters have been used and which letters have not yet been used in our grid. So the big four, J, Q, X, and Z, have not yet been used. We're going to have to try and put them in somewhere. If we don't get them, it's fine. But if we do, that's a bonus. So here, should we go with blacklights or blacklisted? I am leaning towards blacklights because blacklisted is not very positive. Stephanie says, weird coincidence, but in a way it could be a good memorial tribute. Yeah, I mean, so Stephanie, by the way, if you guys want to just hop in and tell me whether you prefer blacklights or blacklisted, I'll go with whatever you guys say. Just let me know which one you want to try first. So Stephanie, I mean, with an indie puzzle, let's say that I had Laker in this puzzle and I was going to publish it today and I had Laker in it. I could clue it with reference to today's events. I probably wouldn't, but I could. And that's because I don't have to jump through like 5 or 6 logistical hoops to do that. It's just me and a software and a file, and I just upload it to Google Drive and post it. With New York Times or LA Times or any of these, big mainstream venues, you've got so many hoops to jump through. You have to print out millions of copies of the puzzle. You got multiple formats. I don't know what their pipeline is for uploading things to their website and sending it to test solvers and all that kind of stuff, but I imagine that they have quite a complicated operation. So changing a clue in a matter of 12 hours is probably not possible for them. Or 4 hours today, right? Okay, so Adam says he likes blacklisted more. Blacklights in the plural is slightly weird. I'm not sure I agree because you could say blacklights are like laser tag arena sightings or something, right? Like a black light is an individual device, right? I mean, black light you can think of as the abstract noun, or not abstract, but what am I trying to say? Not a tangible black light, but just like I'm under black light, like under UV light. Or you could say a black light is a physical device that produces UV radiation. Okay, we'll go with blacklisted. Hey, Sean. So my puzzles are at sidsgrids.com. It's in the description of this stream. sidsgrids.com. And I've got about 20 puzzles up. You can solve them. Go for it. I'm going to get a drink of water real quick. I just ran out of water. I will be right back in about 10 seconds. Okay. Yeah, no problem, Sean. Not a problem. We have people coming in and coming out, so we're all good. You can stay as long as you like if you got time. It's a Sunday evening. I know tomorrow's a work day, but thanks for being here. So in this in this slot. Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks, Sean. This stream will be archived, so if you want to come back later and just watch the rest, I'm probably only going to go for another hour, and you're welcome to jump in whenever you have time. So thanks for coming. Cool. So in this slot, I only have 2 options. I like goose step better. I actually think goose step deserves to be a 60-point word in my word list, mostly because there's a Calvin and Hobbes strip. I love Calvin and Hobbes. This is where I first learned this word, where his mom says something about that. Oh, where is it? Yeah, this is the strip that where I was first introduced to this word. I love Calvin and Hobbes. I would never clue goose step with reference to this particular strip That would be way too obscure, but it is a fun word. I think here's what I'm going to try. And this is totally legal to do when constructing. At the outset of starting this grid, I mentioned that I don't like putting 3-letter words into corners. Like, for example, something like that. I don't like that. Oh, is that true? Karen says it has Nazi connotations. I was not aware of that, so we're not going to do that then, if that's correct. Thank you for pointing that out. Got it. Got it. I was not aware of that. I just remember from the Calvin and Hobbes trip. So this is why it's helpful to run puzzles by people. Has it been in puzzles before? It has. It's been in the New York Times in 2017 and LA Times. Yeah. I don't know if it's good or bad that I wasn't aware of that. I guess I'm not up on my on that trivia. Okay, so here's what I was doing real quick. I'm going to take this out for a second. Good guys don't march that way. Okay, right. If I'd done a little bit of Googling, I probably would have turned that up as well. So thank you for catching that for me. Let's do this. So if I don't have that, if I don't fill in these 4 letters, I've got G blank 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 T or whatever this is, and I've got 5 entries here. Okay, so we're not going to do this entry. And guarantee, guarantor are kind of neutral. Goes afters, that's kind of nice in its own way. But it is a prepositional phrase. It's just go plus a preposition, which is taking up valid, it's taking up 5 letters of space. So instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove these 2 black squares and move them here. Yeah, Stephanie. I mean, I was a kid when I read that strip, and I probably never registered that was the same thing as the fascist dance move or whatever it is. So what I did here is I just moved these 2 black squares from here to here, which is valid. It's totally fair. It moves the ones in the opposite corner as well. But I haven't filled that corner yet, so we don't have a problem. And by doing that, I have a lot more options. So gear ratio is pretty good. Going stag is great. Goes batty is like, I'm not too keen on that because that could be seen as insensitive of people with mental illness. Guest star is pretty good. Glam metal, I don't even know what that is, but I'm sure it's a thing. Oh yeah, it's definitely a thing. Right. Okay. But I don't connect with that very much, so I might not do that. Let's do going stag. Ooh, okay. So here's what's going on here. I have a lot of these. So these dark gray, not these light gray letters, but these dark gray letters indicate to me that these are effectively the only letters that can fit in those squares once I commit to having going stag in my grid. And I'm not too keen on any of this. At best is okay. Hard G is like, I don't want to have that in my puzzle. There's only a few ways to clue stuff like that, and it's not fun to see. A tilt is not a great word. Soda and gate are fine. B-day, crossing et al. And soys, I don't want that. Let's try gear ratio. Blacklisted. R and R. Okay. People are kind of divided on whether entries like this, like R and R, M and M, where it's spelled out M-A-N-D-M, R-A-N-D-R. People are divided on whether or not that kind of stuff is fair. You never see it written this way. You always see it written as R ampersand R. And I think that I tend to fall into that category. Although I sometimes like these. For some reason, it's kind of just, It's a little bit quaint, like in a good way, that you write it this way. But I'm going to avoid that. What I can do is put another cheater square here. Let's try that. Goes Dutch. Isn't going Dutch like something to do with credit card payment? Like everybody puts their credit cards into a pile. Good witch. Is that something I know? Probably. It's a TV show. Is it a well-liked TV show? Kind of. Do you guys know Good Witch? Has anybody seen that show? Okay, we got A and W, so I'm probably not going to do that. Let's do going stag again. Black lights. Yeah, again, I don't like these entries. Gear ratio. Okay, so we're at 74 words. And this is a Monday puzzle. And I've already got fan bases, Sith Lord, and potentially either blacklisted or blacklights, which are all pretty good entries. So I can afford to cut off this corner like that because I've got plenty of real estate, long fill real estate. I would really like to keep this at 74 words, so I'm going to try to see if I can come up with good fill here. But if I cut off this long entry and I do that, it'll be much easier to fill, and I'll still be at 76, and most Mondays are at 78. So let's try. Guest star. Black lights. Guru. IROC is not is it Theos or Theos? Yeah, it's Theos. It's not good. I thought like the OS was something from a sci-fi film or something. Yeah, R&D, R&R, A&W. Miss M. Oh, okay. Stephanie's asking, what's the theme? Okay, cool. Side hustle is a revealer. Probably clued as something like second job, or I might do like moonlighting activity. I don't know, something a straightforward and what's the word I'm looking for? Like a literal definition of the word side hustle would be the first part of that revealer. The second part of the revealer clue will be, or what each of the theme entries has. And the idea here being that side hustle, I've got literally the word gig on the side of the grid in each of these entries. And gig is another word for hustle, like a side gig. So these are literally side gigs. And if that's not clear, I will circle them when I publish the puzzle. So it's, very clear what the idea is. It's a very straightforward theme. It's and the theme itself, the difficulty of the theme kind of dictates the difficulty of the fill. So because this is really straightforward, especially if I put circles in there, it's like super like in your face. So if I do that, I'm gonna keep I'm planning to keep the fill very, very easy. No complicated or obscure words and proper names. Definitely no names that are crossing each other. Yeah, I don't think I need to circle them either, so I'm not going to do that. But it's aesthetically nice to look at. Yeah, I think I may have to. I may have to close this corner off, which is a little bit sad, but constructing is all about trade-offs, as many people have said before. Let's try blacklisted first. Yeah, we got plenty of stuff here. And we still have a 7 down. And also, by moving this over, we got rid of this blank, 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 blank U 5-letter slot, which Brian Herrick, I think, recently posted on Twitter that every grid he makes, he has that letter string, and it's. Can you guys hear me now? Will? Apparently my sound went off. Can you hear me now? I think we're on a delay, so let me wait. Okay, cool. Yeah, this happened yesterday. For some reason, my software, encoding software, keeps turning off my audio and then turning back on. Spelunk is pretty good. Okay, cool. Thank you, everybody, for being on my case. Appreciate it. Opened. This is the singer. This is not a fun word. O blank blank H. What do I have when I have O blank blank H? Opa and OO. Neither one I like very much. Yeah, this H at the end is not great because I have an L. So the S and T, which are the most common letters you'd want to have here, or C, are not going to fit. So spelunk is not a great word to put there. I'm stuck in a rush. I'm Yours is a song, right? So sulfurs is not good. Ape suit. It does put the S here at the end. So I could theoretically have an S or a T, or you could have any of those letters. Let's try this. A tilt, it'll, gets, sate, gale. The only word I don't really like here very much is a tilt, and it'll has to be clued with a fill in the blank clue. A tilt is not a word that I see ever outside of crosswords. It is gettable. I wonder if ape suit. The only thing I can think of with ape suit is like that psychology demonstration where they have people throwing basketballs around, passing basketballs, and then they have a guy walk in with an ape suit on, and you never notice him because you're selectively attending to the basketball. Gorilla suit. Is gorilla suit more in the language than ape suit? Okay, let's not do this. I put ahi tuna in a recent puzzle. Maybe not recent, but I put it in some puzzle. Adam says that was a real ape. They're renowned for intruding on psychology experiments. So my research, I actually work with macaque monkeys. And they certainly, if they're not happy with you when you're trying to do an experiment, they will make themselves known. They will make it known. So I'm with you there. Ate it. Gats is not a word I want to put in my puzzle. Atlas. Gash. Sheesh. IRAs. Sarah. Gale. Okay. Gale is like a gust of wind, right? Yes. Sarah. I'm sure there's a Sarah we can put in here. Yeah. Supreme Court Sarah. It's probably the best option. IRAs is I have a love-hate relationship with IRAs, both because I invest in them, and also because like they're it's a plural abbreviation, plural initialism. It's not great fill, but it's like e-file with taxes. When I do TurboTax, I see e-file, and I have to I have to withhold my scoff when I see e-file in a puzzle because I see it every year in April. Gasp. Gish. I don't like gish. Jest. I don't think jest. This is I don't the act is not something that I recognize. It's a show. Okay, let's go with this because at least these are not terrible. And sheesh is nice. I like sheesh as like a colloquial phrase or interjection. I try to stay away from PTSD in my grids because there's only really a few ways to clue it, and it doesn't really evoke the best images. I mean, I think of it in terms of if I had a slot and would I choose Alzheimer's or depression over other long entries? So why would I pick PTSD? The only reason people would pick I would pick PTSD is because it has 4 consonants, it's 4 letters long, and it fits in a slot. But that's not a good reason, a good rationale to put PTSD in a puzzle. It's very utilitarian. Add it is also one of those entries that I am not always too keen on, even though it's legit. Okay, I mean, I there's too many abbreviations here for me. Sec and stat. Actually, this is not bad. Act on is like act on, act in, act up. Those verb preposition entries are very useful, but not really assets to a puzzle, in my opinion. Sop is not a fun word, but it is a word. Okay, this will work. Apron, also. SAT and teen, or SAT and teen. We can do an SAT clue again, Adam. This is an unoffensive corner. There's nothing to write home about here, but it's okay. Oh boy. Oh. All right. If this were like a midweek puzzle, I would do fill like this. I mean, adduct is a very technical medical term. It means to bring adduct your leg. But most of this is fine. D-Day is okay. Sky Terrier. Esau. Is that the person from the Bible or Morales? I forget. One of those. Disc. Such, and you have a nice cue here. But for a Monday, I would not do that. Sash. AL East is a baseball thing. Ageist. Is that how you spell that? Gita would be the Bhagavad Gita. Esau is Bible. Esau is Morales. Yeah. I always get those confused. Stuff like that where it's like one letter off. I just get from the crosses if I have to. Or I make an educated guess. Bhagavad Gita is one of the holy scriptures in Hinduism. I would not be opposed to putting that in a puzzle. It is kind of a partial. Ageist is stuff like this is I like to call attention to things. It all depends on the clue. For example, which had slashes in it, where he had he/she, and he talked about it in his constructor notes. That's the kind of entry where if I were putting that in a blog puzzle, I wouldn't be opposed to it because it can get a clue that calls out the fact that it's gender binary normalizing. But in a mainstream puzzle, you can't really do that because they're probably going to change the clue. Aegis is pertinent with OK Boomer right now. Yeah, I I struggle a lot with OK Boomer when it happened because it's being thrown around by a lot of my compatriots in in my generation, and I think to denounce an entire generation of people that we should be paying respect to in some way. Whenever I have PAE, this is the cheese. Blank T is not great. I mean, there's only so many things we can put in here. What is Gila? Is that a person? Arizona County. Lizard. Oh, my buddy in and out. Oh, okay. All right. 1 second. Can you hear me now? I I wonder if it's the cable I'm using on this mic. Maybe that's what the problem is. Okay. Can you hear me now? If not, I might quickly pause. Very good. Okay. I just jiggled the cable on this mic. Maybe I might need to switch out the cable. Okay. Thanks everybody for being here with me. This is honestly like such a fun experience for me. Construction is a very not isolating, but it's quite a solitary endeavor. So when you have people to join you, it is much appreciated. Let's go with AL East, even though I really am not a fan of that. Oh, this is the same issue. Never mind. Yeah, we might have to get rid of this stuff. In a Rush is not bad. It's on. Thanks, Karen. Appreciate it. Okay. I'm not. Ooh, this is the singer, and I'm not sure how many people. Smooth Operator. Well, it's a. Soldier of Love Singer 2009. Is it the same person? Yeah, I mean, she's definitely deserves to be in puzzles. The question is, how about a Monday? It's me. One ply is like, we can get away with a fun clue with that. Like, yeah, okay, good. We'll do that. 1 ply we can get away with, like the worst toilet paper, or like most toilet paper in public school bathrooms, unfortunately. And Gen Y, I haven't seen in too many mainstream crosswords. Yeah, I don't think it's been in New York Times, LA Times, Wall Street Journal. Even Gen Z hasn't really been in those outlets. Yeah, I think it deserves to be in. Italy. State of the Union is what this is referring to, but I don't think that's a common enough initialism. Yeah. Yeah, I like 1 ply for that reason. It's better than stuff like 1 lap. So this is where I draw the line. Like 1 ply is itself a self-contained adjective. 1 ply toilet paper. Whereas when you have like 1 lap, it's the one is a qualifier for the word lap. One lap itself is not an adjective. Like one lap, one per is really like really not a thing. One set, you could do one set for. Oh, good point. What would the cross for O blank blank O blank blank H be? OTOH is on the other hand, which I think is okay. OO is, it's like, I mean, it's okay. It's not terrible. Let's just try it and see what we get. It's on is pretty lively. Gen Y, I think I like. Yeah. Shad is a fish. If it were Chad, I would be okay. Shad is not a Monday entry. It's like the state fish of Connecticut or something, right? Yeah. Okay, Karen. Karen asks, what does green paint mean? So green paint is crossword jargon for an entry that is comprised usually of an adjective and a noun, like green and paint, where it doesn't really refer to a standalone thing. We say like it's not a thing. By a thing we mean it's not an entry which where the two components of the entry, like the adjective and the noun, are can be. It's an entry where if you were to, you could easily replace the adjective and put a different adjective in there, and it would just be another thing. Like for example, green paint, it could be red paint, blue paint, orange paint. Why green? And you could clue it as layer placed on many tennis courts, or to be even more, in your face, you could say something like large component of many rolling hill landscape paintings, something like that. But I mean, why green? I mean, it could be anything. So stuff like like one lap, you could clue it as, well, it's a short swimming exercise or something like that. But nobody ever says one lap unless they're referring specifically to the activity of swimming one lap. Or you could say 400-meter race trajectory or something like that, or path. But who would ever say one lap is a standalone thing? Versus stuff like fan bases, where fan is not an interchangeable verb for bases. A fan base is a thing. Does that make sense? And about 3.1415, about pi says, how long does the New York Times typically take to respond after submission? Thanks to Ricky and Adam for chiming in with their feedback. I don't have a spreadsheet. I'm not as well organized as Adam is, but I'm still waiting on responses from October. I have responses from September. So it's about 3 months for me right now. I did have to wait 5 months for one puzzle. Adam, 162 days is, I think that's about as long as I've had to wait. I haven't ever gotten one back in 47 days, but it is a while. Okay, let's come back to this. Also, I'm at about 2.5 hours on my stream. I think I'm going to stick around for maybe another 45 minutes. So we'll get as far as we can. This is taking much more time than I thought it would, but I'm glad we're getting to interact and talk about stuff. Slip-ups. Yeah, Adam, when did you submit that first submission? It might have been around the same time that I had my submission. Okay, I like this so far. Edie Falco, Emir Stern. Emir is like, or Emir, I don't know how to pronounce this, is one of those things that I've seen in crosswords a lot. It's pretty inferable if you know the word emirate. But I'm concerned about the cross with Edie, although I'm pretty sure most people have heard of Edie Falco. Yeah. Also, I'm not a fan of clues like this. Women's name that sounds like its first two letters. Because, especially when it's a woman, I understand why those clues are sometimes necessary. When you want to avoid a nadic. A nadic is basically two crossing proper nouns or obscure words where presumably any letter could go in the crossing square. Or it's also known as a bad crossing. So sometimes you need to clue entries like this so that, Edie may have been crossing another very obscure name. But especially when you don't have a nadic, when people clue stuff like this, like Edie as women's name that sounds like its first two letters, or people clue Sue, S-U-E, the name, as apt name for a female lawyer, ? I'm not a fan of that because there are people who deserve to be in the puzzle, especially women, and they deserve to get a legitimate clue and not something like this, which I think is a bit of a cheat. Stern is a word. I'm not going to clue it as Howard Stern. I think I'm okay with this because of the popularity of this person. Bleeps. I'm up. Strum. Okay, this corner looks pretty good. We have a few different options. Bleeds, I'm not too keen on. ID'd, I don't like very much. Isn't is a fair enough word, but no, we're not going to do that. Blends. In HD is pretty obsolete now because everything's in HD. Edie Falco is good. Yeah, I agree, Stephanie. Izod is a legit thing, but I'm not sure how many people know this word. And again, we have this entry, which I'm not a fan of. Let's do blends here. Bleeps here. I'm up is fair, I think. Strut. Do we prefer strum or strut? Not strug. And we have gigs, which we can't have because it's part of the theme. I like strum better, just because gems is easier to clue than gets. Gets is a verb. Uncut gems, yeah. That's a great clue. Okay, let's try to fill this corner. Yeah, we have plenty of options here. Slip-ups. Ale tap is, I think, good. Bleeps. Bleeps is pretty colorful. Colorful language. Bleeps. Let's try to get a Scrabbly letter in here. So there are a few ways to do this. You can just, poke around in your fill bar here. Hey, Matthew. Thanks for joining. Matthew's my puzzle pal and collaborator on lots of different things. He's from St. Louis as well. He's just stopped by. Thanks for coming in. I'm going to go over to his house tomorrow and play with his cat, his new cat that he got. So, like I was saying, if you want to put a Scrabbly letter in this corner, also let me highlight. I just realized I was on the whole time. To put a Scrabbly letter in this corner, there's a few ways to do it. You can just scan through this list and say, okay, I see a Z, A to Z there. But this list only goes in Crossfire. It ends at a certain point. I think there are probably more fill options that are not even listed here. So I would prefer to just put in like an X and see what comes up. I don't like either of these entries, so we're not going to do that. Okay, let's put another letter in somewhere. Let's put a J in here. Taj Mahal. T-top is not fun. Well, I mean, it's okay. It's just one of those things that I learned from Crosswords. Well, what else can we do? Okay, Styx is a river. I don't like phyla crossing L's or L. I like Gen X. Poor overlook Gen X. Okay, let's do that. Gen X. Spanx is, I think is great. I like Spanx. the as an entry. This I'm not too happy about though. Yeah, Gen X deserves to be in puzzles as well. Gen X, oops. Yeah. Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, they all deserve to be in puzzles. Okay, wrecked is like, I don't know anybody who says wrecked anymore. Uncut Gems also provides new opal cluing opportunities, which is welcome. Yeah, absolutely. I haven't seen the movie yet, but I heard it's good. I will watch it soon. Pav, I hear vada pav or pav bhaji are Indian foods, but PT forces PTSD, which again I don't like. There's definitely good fill in here. How about we come back to this corner? I don't want to fill a corner that is not constrained, and then figure out that I can't actually. I have to change it later. Let's do something over here. Dog fighters is not something I want to put in my puzzle. English teas. Again, I told you, Jeff Chen likes his tea. Oh, this blank 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 B entry is not is gonna have few options. Oops. Plan B, I see clued all the time as like second option or second choice, but I think it deserves to be clued like this. I mean, one of the only clues I see in this database, which is the thing that most people think of when they think of Plan B, is by AVCX, Ben Taussig. That's not a surprise to me at all. Stuff like IUD, Plan B, even things like PAD. I mean, I think PAD should be clued just as often as the feminine hygiene product as it should be clued as like a bachelor pad. I don't want this entry is also pretty constrained. Let's put an O here because I have goner, toner, and loner, and well, boner has a different meaning that is not that passes a breakfast test, but I don't know anybody who uses that word for that. Celeb. Part B, type B. Let's try this. Hun is, as long as it's clued in a gender neutral way, I'm okay with it. Went it alone, goes it alone. Flexitarian. I actually really like that clue, that entry. I'm a vegetarian, so not a flexitarian, but a vegetarian. Plan B is unpleasant. Yeah, I mean, I guess it really depends on. I know I've talked to several women who do crosswords who believe that Plan B should be clued this way. I am certain that there are different opinions on it. Yeah, well, yeah, that's certainly a fair point. We can take it out just to see what we get. I think just like with any other creative endeavor, people are going to have different opinions on what is unpleasant and what is not. I think that considering the fact that I don't want to I'm not really very I don't think I'm honestly I don't even think I'm very well equipped to have a an informed like conversation about this so much as other women that I've heard. I try to listen to what people are saying first of all. So I appreciate that you that you're bringing it up. But from people that I've talked to, women, on Twitter and over email, Plan B is um, a core element of women's health. It's something which is utilized a lot, um, and has a lot of implications. And there's definitely it has some political undertones, but more than anything, it's about health. It doesn't, I guess, in a way, it doesn't pass the breakfast test, which is, if you're not familiar with that term, it just means, is it something that when you're doing the crossword puzzle over breakfast with somebody, would you want to see that in your puzzle when you're discussing, or with when you're talking with your family about stuff? And I suppose it really depends on your position on when life begins, and I'm not sure I want to have the conversation on this stream, but it's something that's available to people, to women across this country. It's utilized very frequently, and it's one of those things which I don't think there's really a reason why it doesn't deserve to be in the puzzle, based on what people have told me. However, I do recognize that it can be quite divisive. So I appreciate that you pointed it out, and I'm happy to consider other people's point of view. So let's avoid it for now, and I'm sure we can find another good fill without it. Also, I wasn't too much of a fan of Hun, H-O-N here. Let's do this, and I'm not a fan of this Hun either. We can keep it neutral. I do want to try this. Let's try it. Okay, I'll bite is great. I like that. And the variant spelling of like okay as an okay-ay or okay doesn't bother me, because I use both of those, honestly. I'm not very I am not consistent with my usage. Loner is not a very positive entry, but we can try and clue it sensitively. Thank you, the 3 goldies. I appreciate it. I'm sorry if I just kind of rambled, but it's kind of hard to like package all my thoughts about things, because I've had a lot of conversations with people about what belongs in puzzles and what doesn't. Like IUD is a great, I think it's something that belongs in puzzles, if you ask me. It's about women's, it's about health, and it's not a disease. It's not something like PTSD, which I would try to avoid. It's an option that, every kid that goes to family health or sex education in grade school learns about IUDs, as well as a variety of other contraceptive devices. And there's no reason why it shouldn't be in puzzles, in my opinion. Yeah, I like this a lot. The concern about isle and ill being a dupe can be fixed with this. So I'm not even concerned about that. Also, ill and isle are different words. They have different etymologies. So we can probably get away with this. Okay, we got plenty of stuff here, so let's try and find something good. Email, I like. Acai is a bit overused nowadays, but it's it's such a trendy thing that I believe it should be in puzzles. I like both of these. Jam, as in like a door jam. Yeah. I mean, this is a great corner if we're okay with jam. What do you guys think? Ricky says you could go liner slash high. I don't even know what high is. I've seen it, or HIE. Yeah, I would avoid that. I mean, lamb and labs. Yeah, these are all good. Lags, laws. These are all good. I like this corner. Cacao crossing acai is nice. Let's do jam, and then if I decide that I don't like it later, we can change it. Because then we get a J. And Jaws is a movie. It's well known. And all of these crossings are fair for jam. And for acai, I think. Oh, here we have a potential issue. Olay is the only thing I like here. Right. So here's a trick. We're at 38 blocks. And we have 6 3-letter words, which is very few for a 15x puzzle. We have 38 fours, which is quite a lot, but we're kind of in okay territory here. In this little corner, so here's where once we filled about 60-70% of the puzzle, now these symmetrically unfilled areas, like we filled this corner but we haven't filled this one, are really where we have to kind of be a little crafty with how we fill. So Phil Ivy is a poker player. I don't like these entries except for Olay. I don't like Ivy either, actually, on a Monday. So here's a trick that that we can use to try and fill this corner. Bleeps and gems are both pluralized, so we can put a block there. And we're still at 40 blocks, which is fair on a Monday. Eric Agard at USA Today routinely goes to 42. So I think we're fine. And now we have a few better options. MSG I think is fine. So we can go with MSG. Ahoy is also okay with me. But then we get Agog. Is that really the only entry we have there? Oops. Yeah. Pray. Yeah, I mean, this G is not great because we have to put, we actually don't have to put, we could put an N here. I don't know if that does anything. No, it doesn't. Okay, let's go with MSG here. I'm gonna put that in first, and let's see what we get. Slag is like, it's a thing. Mahal. Oh, we could have. Okay, if we get Taj somewhere. Okay, this is way too constrained for me. Mulan, Tupi, or TT are the two options we have. What is TT? Capuchin monkey relative. Oh, I should know that. That is not a Monday entry. I may. Tammy. Do we have any famous Tammys? Oh, I know this person. O negative. The blood type is. I don't usually like to use that. I don't think I've ever used it actually. Agog is one of my it's one of those words you never see in real life. Oh, Jonas. I like Jonas. RBG is good. Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Tori is either a person or the geometrical, like Taurus, plural. But that's pretty hard. Both of those are probably pretty hard. I think there's a Tori that I know with T-O-R-I. Is Tori Kelly T-O-R-I? Or is it with a Y? Yeah, Tori Kelly is with an I. I like your music. 5 million hits. Crossing Jonas, I think that's fair. JPEG, Snag, these are all fine to me. JPEG is like on brand for a blog. Yeah, Tori Kelly is well known. I agree. Tusked is not great, but yeah, and here's where we have to go with a relatively neutral word. Pilates is actually good. But okay, I don't like any of this stuff. Yeah, okay, we're going to have to figure out what to do here. We might have to take out okay, I'll bite. MCG, is that the abbreviation for micrograms? If it is, I'm not doing that. That's like a doctor prescription thing. Montreal University, director of Charlie's Angels. There are starting to be a lot of proper names. There may very well be. Let's see how many we have. I'll go to words here. Gigi Hadid's already proper name. I think I managed to not have to cross any of these with proper names. Okay, I'll bite. Ho, fan base is wide there, rind. Yeah, none of these are proper names. I agree. Let's see, we got Emir, not really a proper name, but not a very easy word. I can change this to L to make it easier. No, we have one. Yeah, we only have Edie so far. Asia is a proper name, agree, but everybody should know Asia. There's only one proper name besides Gigi Hadid. And both are women. Yeah, I do agree, though, that this crossing is crucial. This cannot be something that people don't know. Audi? I mean, it's inferable from the theme, but it's gig, gig, gig. But you don't want people to have to infer crossing retroactively or like retrospectively based on grokking the theme. You want them to get the word potentially from crossings, and then later figure out, oh, okay, that's a gig. That's gig, gig, gig. Okay, I got it. Yeah, this is not okay. Let me do this. So slip up can be a word in and of itself. So maybe we can do this and no. Maybe the issue was now I'm at 42 blocks, which is probably too many for New York Times. It's fine for something like USA Today. Bali would work. Yeah, it would work. So long as we can put something here, which we can't, unfortunately. Yeah. Yuri, as in the first person in space. That's a little old. It's something I know, but yeah, most of these, an I at the end of a 4-letter word is most likely going to be the proper noun. Nori is like seaweed, Japanese seaweed, I believe. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is a tough section to fill. I'm okay with B-Day because I write that myself sometimes. Audi is something people should know. V-Day. TVG is not well known. I think TVPG, TVMA, those are okay. Run at. Run at is like one of those. Nobody says run at. And then it forces this. Yeah, that's the only entry that goes there. Well, this is like what happens when you have to glue. I'm basically stitching together two parts of this puzzle, this area and this area, and I'm constrained by these two long entries, Sith Lord and OK I'll Bite. OK I'll Bite is much easier to take out because it only forces me to redo this corner, which I like, but we may have to get rid of it. And but this entry, Sith Lord, is not easy to take out. And look at these entries. I mean, Okima, Pleach, Yahweh. Yahweh is actually legit, but it forces although with this weird spelling, and a lot of Urs is like a no-go for me. X-Arch, no, none of these. Unnotch. For some reason, I have a lot of entries in this word list where it's like a and then noun. And those are always partials. Ooh is is like oh, but probably worse. Doodah is okay. Dearth. Act as, share, east. I'm just trying this to see what happens. Oldies, eels, Bon Jovi, crossing Ivy. No, we can't do that. Yeah, I mean, these are all known to me. Ragas is an Indian musical term. Refers to a scale, an Indian scale, or scales rather. And it's been in puzzles before. But RPG is a grenade launcher or a grenade, and I don't like that. Agog is not a word I see often in puzzles. Bali or Mali would work here. But this is a few too many compromises for me for this puzzle, considering how, how high our standards have been for Phil in the rest of the puzzle. Oh yeah, RPG is role-playing game too. Okay, yeah, I like that. I actually kind of like that then. I feel like people, I don't presume that everybody's gonna know who Gigi Hadid is. But she's definitely crossworthy, and she's not in any of my word lists, and she's not been in any puzzles that I've seen. At least not mainstream. Yeah, RPG might not be Monday level, but that's true. You reminded me that RPG can be clued that way. And I've played a few RPGs, so I know what that is. I've played JRPGs, which I think is like an even more niche word, but I'd like to see that like on a Friday or Saturday sometime. Maybe I'll add it to my word list and put it in as a short seed in one of my puzzles. Okay, so we're gonna have to. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take this is a very low tech way to do this. I'm just gonna take a picture of this grid. And so I have it. We're at 8 o'clock. The stream's been going for 3 hours. I'm probably going to stay here for another 15, 20 minutes or something. And I'll log off after that. I'm going to try and do MMORPG. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel like MMORPG's been in a puzzle that I've seen before. Oh, it hasn't. Okay. How about MMORPGs? Did I see it in the Chris Adams puzzle? I feel like I've seen that before. The Three Goldies asks, what is short seed? Okay, so seed is a term that, let me start here. This is a themed puzzle, so I have theme entries, and these are all related words, obviously. Themeless puzzles are usually more wide open grids, harder to solve with harder clues, and they don't have themes, obviously. Some people call them freestyle puzzles. And when you're building a themeless puzzle, which I'll probably do on stream at some point in the near future, we're much more concerned about trying to get as much juicy long fill as possible. So you might have, in this puzzle we have 8, so 2 of these, plus 2 of these, plus 2 of these, plus 2 of these. We have 8 long entries, where I'm considering a long entry to be length 8 or longer. But in a themeless, you routinely will have 14 to 18 or even 20 long entries. And so most themelesses are seeded, where a seed is the initial entry that you put into a grid, and then you try to fill around that. You could just make a grid and then just let Crossword compiler try to fill it itself, and then start somewhere and go with that. But most themelesses, I mean, at some point, you have like build up. If you've been paying attention to the news, or you just heard a phrase that you really like to put in a grid, you have something you want to put into a grid, and then you use that as your seed. And most seeds are naturally long words because it's hardest to put a long word into a grid. It constrains a lot of the fill around it. But sometimes, if there's a particularly interesting short phrase, like I've been meaning to seed a themeless with NB, ENBY, which is a shortening of non-binary, which is becoming very popular now. So it's the same as a long seed. It's just that I'm using a short entry to seed that puzzle. So JRPG is Japanese RPG, Japanese role-playing game. It's like very niche, but if I ever put it into a puzzle, I'd want all the crossings to be clean. So I would seed that themeless with JRPG and then start building around that corner or that section of the puzzle such that all the 4 crossing entries are all clean. The J, the R, the P, and the G. That's what short seed means. That's what I mean by that. Hope that explains it. And sorry if I went overboard with the explanation. If you want an example of a themeless puzzle, I already built the grid for, but I was cluing it yesterday. I did a test stream. Oops. And thanks. Yeah, I'm just trying to. I mean, I only recently got into puzzles, within the last few years. So it's a pretty steep learning curve. Once you start to pick up the lingo, you can converse very, quickly. There's lots of shorthand that makes it easy to talk shop about puzzles. Yeah, so I was saying I did a stream yesterday where I clued up a themeless puzzle that was seeded with the word emoji keyboard, which is a 13 long string, and 13 strings of length 13 are hard to fit in a 15 by 15 grid because of the way the black squares have to be placed. So it was the best. It would have been much harder to put that into the grid if I had not seeded it first with that entry. SUV limousine is pretty cool. I don't know if that's green painty. I just like the string. SUVL is pretty cool. Yeah, I don't actually know if this is a thing. Peter Broda has a lot of these kinds of entries in his word list. I mean, no dig at him. I'm so thankful that he just gives us these things for free. It's amazing. But he's got a lot of these entries where he's considered this to be a very high ranking entry, and I'm not exactly sure if this is a thing. Oh, that is the wrong spelling of Lucy. Good catch. Yeah, so that is I got to take that out at some point. That would have been terrible if we'd gone with that. Thanks. Good catch, Adam. TIE Fighters, I got Sith Lord already. Do I want to put another Star Wars thing in here? All Nighters is pretty good. John B. Yeah, I mean, there was a Beach Boys reference in today's New York Times thing, and I'm just not up on Beach Boys references. John B. crossing fan bases, Hun. Yeah, Ricky, I mean, I agree. So, I don't know if you were here at the very beginning, but what I said I did was I basically I wrote a script to sort out all the words that are short, so like 6 letters or fewer, below a certain threshold in Broda's list. And so I picked all of the entries that are 7 letters or longer and are scored at 80 points or higher. And that's the only part of his list that I use. But you still get stuff like this, misspelled limousine. Yeah, Matthew Stock was recently constructing a puzzle, and he had monkey DNA as one of the entries. And I was like, that is, I mean, Isn't that like the epitome of green paint? There's cat DNA, cow DNA, ferret DNA, monkey DNA. Like, how many DNAs do you want? Yeah. Credit risks is a very Jeff Chen entry because he's into the financial sector. English tea is right next to it. I told you he likes tea. MMA fighters is good. Oh, but all these require me to have John B. And Stephanie says that that's not great. We might have to go with plan B, and I'll clue it differently, too. I won't clue it with reference to the pill. I did really like flexitarian. Larva. Yeah, I have to do Thomas Alva Edison for that. And it's also not very appetizing. Linda. There's plenty of Lindas, right? I don't have latte anymore, so we can do this. Anti. I have a love-hate relationship with anti. It's usually clued as something like not pro or like one side of an argument or something. I think it's just a prefix. I kind of like this. Pined, liar, zeta, which could be the Catherine Zeta-Jones or could be the Greek letter. And we get a Z. We get an X from flexitarian. I avoid this word in general. I've seen that. I see that all the time being used without thought being given to ableism, and I try to point it out when I can. Dili is like the capital of Timor-Leste or something, right? Yeah. Yeah, I have no idea why I know that, but dahi is a nice word. So dahi is, but it's just crossing. The cross is not fair though. Dahi is an Indian word for yogurt. So if you ever are like at an Indian restaurant and it's too spicy, just ask the server, "I need dahi." They'll give you like full fat, like, fresh yogurt, and it's the best thing for if you're spiced out at an Indian restaurant. Mini crossing Unix. Unix is like right on the edge of what I'd say is Monday level. Rumi, the poet, who I love, doesn't get enough recognition in crosswords, but not Monday level. Salvador Dali, probably okay. Again, this G is the worst part. Swag. I dig is not something that I say it like facetiously because I see it in crosswords, but besides that, I don't say it. I don't really like this word. T-slot is not something I've ever seen outside of puzzles. Frag. Okay, any of these like C flat, like C major, I just avoid those. F flat. Is there anything besides C flat that goes here? No, they're all C flat, F flat, D flat, G flat. Even people with perfect pitch can't remember exactly what key certain things are in. Splat. Oh, Siri's good. Crux. MCG. Oh, man. That is not fair. E-Sig is a thing. Grand Prix. Oh, we got Sorry. Okay, all right. Sorry is like such a such a gimme for me. But I know that many people have said I've never seen that outside of puzzles. Like sari is a thing that I see people wearing all the time in my community. So what do you guys think? Is it fair for Monday? MPG I think is fair. I just don't like these. This is either of these. Okay. All right. Stephanie says sari is okay. Mace is not is the spray, but it's also like a weapon. Yeah, spiky club maces. Okay, people are. The three Goldie says, "I like Saudi. I have one. Nice, cool. Yeah, okay, all right. Selma. Selma. I feel like people should know that. Selma crossing Saudi Isig. Prix has to be clued as Grand Prix, but I can do something like a Mario Kart reference or something. I have a lot of like Mario references in my puzzles because I think Mario is one of the most recognizable video game characters and it's some of the best selling video games, and people should know that he exists. I wouldn't, for example, do like a lot of even something like Grand Theft Auto. I wouldn't clue a lot of things with reference to that. I can't imagine too many people of all generations have played a Grand Theft Auto game, but I imagine that plenty of people from older generations have at least seen a Mario game. Yeah, Ricky, I agree. Yeah, I don't like any of these clues though. Selma, Blotch. Yeah, Bosk Pear Leo the First. No, I don't like these. Yeah, this G is really killing me. What if I do this? Yeah, I avoid this word as well. Will Nediger actually clued me into this because it has racist connotations. I don't like any of this stuff. What about now? So it's just I'm just trying different combinations of blocks to see if they change the fill. And you might wonder like, well, what does this block up here have to do anything with this block? Well, this entry is constrained. So maybe by putting a block here, I get different, or removing the block here rather, I get different fills here that change the letter combinations in this section. Loofah is great. I like loofah. I gotta make that like 70 points in my. Oh, but then I got this. Poobah, Grand Poobah. Growth is very inoffensive. Kvetch is a nice word, but probably not a Monday. And pokad is the weirdest like past tense verb I've seen. Selma's in Selma, Alabama is what I'm thinking. Yeah. Cell grease is I'm sure I could recognize it from a clue. I don't remember what it is. Yeah, it's a salt. It's a cooking thing. What is a crossing? Giggle test. Rice is Riri. Okay, I like Riri, but Riri crossing Gigi Hadid is a little too much. Riri is the nickname for Rihanna. Rihanna, the singer. Fran is. Yeah, I don't like this. Said ah. It's like one of those things that's so. It's so goofy that you have to kind of love it. Mm-mm. Preach. I like preach because you can make it an interjection. Like preach. Amen. Breach. Yeah, but this section is so bad. So there is I'm probably going to turn off the stream in a couple minutes, but there is another way to fix stuff like this, which is, I don't have any. I'm kind of running into problems. I mean, I'm going to try other downs here the next time we do the stream. Another way to kind of try and fix this is trying a different themer that starts with GIG. Unfortunately, the only other one that I found that's 10 long is gig economy, which is it's not hiding the word gig. Here, gig is hidden in giggle, whirligig, and GG. So if I put gig economy in here, it's just going to give away the game. Or it's just not going to be elegant, rather. Okay, I kind of like this. Mini. Let's take out the D, the S, rather. I like this little corner. Mini, Isig, and Doug are all fair. Oh, should I be concerned about this I? Crossing Gigi Hadid with flexitarian? Could an A go there? Flexitarian? I think flexitarian is like a common thing now, right? Well, at least I've heard it a lot. It's got 3 million hits, which is quite a bit. But I imagine that people could easily make this an E, like vegetarian, flexitarian, if they didn't know who Gigi Hadid is. That's something to think about. Flexi is a common prefix. Yeah, no, I agree. It's definitely a common word in my experience. My concern is that people who've never heard of both of these could think that several vowels could go there. I agree, yeah. Flexi, like flexible. It makes total sense, right? But it's not like a word. It's not something like blacklisted that everybody should. It's blacklisted, it's black and listed. This is it's a new coined term. Okay, I think it's fine. I don't think people are going to have too many problems. I think because both of these entries are very, like, they Google well, and they're in the language. I think it's fair. If people don't know both of them, they'll learn something, hopefully. Falsies. What is that? Is that something I know? Oh, cool. Yeah, I mean, see, this is like where my falsies are fake eyelashes, apparently. This is where my wheelhouse ends. Oh, okay. All right. Never mind. Never mind. This is different than what I thought it was. Yeah. Okay, thanks, Ricky. Falsies is great. Do you think I can get away with this clue? I'm very cautious to, like, whenever I have to clue bra, and yeah, no, not eyelashes. Oops. I would not know. Whenever I have to clue bra, I ask my my fiance what to do. Oh, got it. The 3 goldies. Thanks for sharing. I honestly didn't know what this was. We may not be able to do that anyway, because Eli's Altarpine Bosque. Yeah, this thing is the worst. I can't find something that works because of Bosque. Mula. Yeah, it's because I have this I. I really should have thought about this. I got this I and this H. They're not nice letters. I had latte before, and those are nicer letters to work with. I's are surprisingly bad at the end of a word. There's not many words that go here, and I don't like most of these. Chai is great. Italy's chai is something everybody probably, well, not everybody, but I assume most people have heard of that. Idli is something I can't imagine many people have heard of, but again, it's one of those things that I wish more people knew about, if for no reason other than it's one of the only legit I blank blank I words out there. Will Nediger says he's used it in his puzzles, and I am very appreciative of that. Oh hi, whenever I've always wanted to clue this as that quote from The Room with what's the dude's name? What's the guy's name? The that like idiosyncratic auteur. Gotta Google this now. Oh, Tommy Wiseau. Yeah. He goes like, "Oh hi, Mark." In this, yeah, oh, hi, yeah, Adam, you got it. Yeah, it's so partial, but it's a new clue for "Oh hi." I've never seen the clue that way. I think I'm gonna turn off the stream here. It's been 3.5 hours. Yeah, yeah. CC is yeah. It just strikes me as like not a thing. Okay, so I think I'm gonna end it here. So we got pretty far, but this is actually the hardest part, and because I'm commentating everything that I'm doing, this has taken me quite a long time. Um, I think if I weren't commentating, I might be done by now. But you can see, like, I'm just trying to illustrate my thought process. And there were things like, for example, goose step. I did not know the connotation. So I appreciate that people pointed it out. I would have probably Googled that just to make sure it was okay. And I may have like done that at the end and been like, oh man, that's so terrible that I have to go back and pull it out. But you have to pull those things out if you find out about it. For example, okie, O-K-I-E, is apparently an offensive term. And I didn't know that until Evan Bernholtz and a few other people on Twitter pointed it out. So, those are the kinds of entries that you have to pull out when you if you find out about it. And it's easy to make justification for things like that by saying it's just one entry and it's I filled a really tough corner. But for the one person who that offends, it's probably worth not having that in the puzzle. Which is why, I tried to think very carefully about this once. I forget who brought it up. Somebody brought up their reservations about Plan B. I think Stephanie did. And that's very fair, those reservations. I think we should be mindful of that. So anyway, this last part of filling where I have to pay attention to both sides of this grid, the top left and the bottom right, and I have to try and stitch together this section is probably the hardest part. So I'm probably, the next step is I'm probably going to rip out this flexitarian, even though I love that entry. And without focusing on this bottom left corner, just trying to stitch together these two sections. So previously I was focusing on first filling this corner and then this and then this. But I'm going to rip this out later, and I'm going to try and just find a string of 5 letters here, which allows me to have decent fill in this little section. And the most constraining entry is this one, with the H at the end, which is surprising, but it is. So we have to deal with it. So yeah, that's the stream for today, and thanks everybody for joining in. This is like really lively, and I really enjoyed spending time with you guys. If you have questions, like shoot me an email or tweet at me, or my contact info is at sidscripts.com. And I'm going to try, I'm not sure how exactly to share all these like resources with everybody. But I'll probably just put it in the description of this video once it's archived. So you can just go in and, use all the same things that I'm using. Unfortunately, with the word lists, they are expensive. At least Jeff Chen's list is expensive. But it turns over fast, So I sold my first puzzle last year, and I made $400, and it immediately paid off the investment. So if you're really serious about publishing puzzles, it's a good investment if you ask me. Cool. All right.